Chapter 552. You want the cloak, Souchere muttered. She suddenly reached her hand out and took out a black cloak that glowed like stars. As soon as she took out this cloak, the 8 lords all changed their expressions. Souchere doesn't know about this, but the 8 lords do. The 9 lords protectors will be able to observe the situation where the cloak is. This is also the greatest protection the protectors have for the 9 lords. That's why they're willing to deal with Souchere's parents, but not Souchere herself. In fact, even to deal with Souchere, they can only do it through Souchere's parents, taking advantage of the moment when she's not paying attention. Stop! The 8 lords all ordered at once. As the first person to pass the combatant's trial in the last few thousand years, Souchere was favored by the protectors. They don't want the protectors to notice that they're currently dealing with Souchere. The cultivators all breathed heavily as they stopped. Even after using all sorts of spells and techniques, they still couldn't hurt the 3 people from the Sue family. The cultivators were feeling more and more uncertain. They've already cultivated to a certain level, so their spirit sense has also awakened. A faint sense of foreboding was lingering in the minds of the cultivators with better spirit sense. They'll take this chance to stop. The entire courtyard was silent. In the silence, everyone was staring at Souchere. Is it really that thing? That's the starlight cloak that represents the Lord's status. Seems like it. That cloak is so beautiful. So the legends were true after all. Everyone lowered their voices, whispering to each other. Souchere looked at Sue One and Madame Sue, suddenly feeling like they were strangers. She took the cloak and walked in front of her parent. Father, Mother, the cloak is here, but there's something I need to tell you. Chouette, tell me, once you take this cloak, I will no longer have anything to do with the Sue family. If you're willing to let me leave the Sue family, leave you, then take the cloak, Souchere calmly said. The light from the lamp shone on the last ray of light in her eyes. Nonsense. Sue Wen berated her. Even if the cloak is in my hands, you're still my good daughter. He grabbed the cloak and put it on himself. There was a commotion in the crowd. The starlight cloak had changed owners. Had the Sue residents really changed owners? The crowd couldn't help but clamor. Even the expressions of the 8 lord prefects became complicated. Souchere looked at the starlight cloak on her father's body and muttered almost soundlessly, "Then, let's do this." She lowered her head, and the glimmer in her eyes dissipated. No one could see her expression. Madame Sue came up to take her hand. "My good daughter." Souchere took a step back. She dodged Madame Sue's hand and turned around to look at the other 8 lords. "One last thing. The matter of the Grand Cultivation Alliance you must give up," she said. Everyone was shocked. The onlookers looked at each other. No one had expected a series of changes to occur. To establish the Grand Cultivation Alliance, the 9 lords had spent a lot of effort. This was an organization meant to take over the entire world, and now Souchere wanted everyone to give it up. Everyone coldly looked at her. "You're no longer a lord," one of the lords simply said. The other manor heads exchanged glances. Souchere doesn't have the starlight cloak anymore. From now on, she won't have to worry about the guardians seeing anything, so she can directly deal with Souchere. No matter how strong she is, there will always be a time when she's exposed. When she's captured and interrogated for that secret, the 9 lords will welcome even more combatants. That's a good thing. One of the lords couldn't contain his joy and smiled. "Such a big matter, it's not up to a little girl like you to decide," Souchere replied. "No, it's up to me to decide." She lightly tapped the ground with her scepter. Boom! The earth trembled, dust and smoke rose. A towering gray figure descended from above, landing at the entrance of the courtyard. This was a monster that no one had ever seen before. Without waiting for the crowd to panic, the security guards at the scene reacted right away. Various modern weapons mixed with spells struck the monster's body. Beautiful flames scattered in all directions. But the monster was completely unharmed. The lords exchanged looks and saw the shock in each other's eyes. Su Cher was able to control such a gigantic monster. This monster was struck with the highest intensity, yet it was completely unharmed. How did Su Cher do that? Is that a greeting? They seem to be quite friendly, the monster pridefully asked. Only Su Cher could understand what it was saying. They're using their own method to attack you, Su Cher replied. Is that so? The monster was disappointed. At this point, a golden core realm cultivator flew up, trying to attack the monster. He was also the one with the highest cultivation among the cultivators present. Peh! The monster spat at the cultivator. The golden core realm cultivator screamed in pain as his body was cut to pieces by the strong wind. His flesh and blood were melted away by the corrosive saliva mixed with the wind. The rest of his body was also blown away by the wind without a trace. All the cultivators were shocked by this. Su Cher held her scepter and lightly leapt up. She flew up to the monster's head, looking down on all living beings. The monster noticed something in her mind and cautiously reminded her. They seem to be your acquaintances. Do you really want to do that? No need to say anything else. I have nothing to do with any of them, Su Cher muttered to herself. She casually swung her scepter downwards. A holy white light shot out from the scepter. The white light silently entered the entire courtyard. The 8 lords, hundreds of cultivators, and everyone else couldn't resist at all. Before the white light, they didn't even have time to scream before they were reduced to a pile of broken limbs. The noisy courtyard filled with guests was instantly turned into a raging sea of blood. Only Su Wen and Madame Su were still alive. They were trembling in the sea of corpses. Su Cher closed her eyes and took a deep breath. She seemed to be sensing something. "Milady, congratulations on experiencing the joy of killing," the monster rumbled. "This is the joy of killing?" "That's right." The monster excitedly swung its arm. "No," Su Cher opened her eyes. "This is only the simplest way to solve the problem, and I don't feel anything from it." "You don't feel anything?" The monster was surprised. "Of course, because they're only dead," Su Cher softly explained and waved her scepter. Countless illusory figures flew into the air from the courtyard. These figures noticed Su Cher's gaze. The phantoms desperately wanted to escape, but they were firmly imprisoned in a fixed area, unable to leave at all. Su Cher stared at these souls. She pointed the scepter straight at the souls that had just lost their bodies. "Fuse," she ordered. The scepter moved. Hundreds of souls uttered a terrifying scream at once. Their figures completely disintegrated into black sprites of light. These sprites gathered together to form a square box that was absorbed by the scepter. The color of the scepter became darker. Su Cher lightly tapped the scepter with her other hand. Countless human faces appeared from the scepter, looking at her in fear. They opened their mouths to beg for mercy, but couldn't make any sound. Su Cher stared at these people's expressions of fear and pain. Her frown slowly loosened. Indeed, the splitting and fusing of souls is a very painful thing to do. In front of this kind of pain, what is death? You see, capturing them like this and torturing their souls is the only way to feel calm, Su Cher told the monster. The monster looked at the souls of pain that had fused together, heard Su Cher's soft whispers, and couldn't help but tremble. "What's the matter?" Su Cher asked in confusion. "It's nothing, esteemed lady, I am ready to serve you at any moment," the monster respectfully replied. It tried its best to remain calm. Su Cher's expression changed. She put the souls away and tapped the monster's head with her scepter. The monster understood. It brought Su Cher up into the sky and flew away. Only Su Wensheng and Madame Su were left stunned. From start to finish, Su Cher didn't even glance at them. But after Su Cher left, Su Wensheng and Madame Su were both overjoyed. "Ah, my daughter is so strong. Who would dare to go against me from now on?" Su Wensheng said. "But she seems a bit angry." Madame Su was a bit worried. "It's fine." Su Wensheng lightly stroked his cloak. she's still my daughter. I'll just have to find a chance to coax her a bit later on. Su Cher is so powerful, her strength is more than enough to change the world. There's still a lot of things I'll need to rely on her from now on. Madame Su patted Su Wenxing. Now that all the core members of the other 8 lords are dead, we need to return to the Su family to make some arrangements and obtain the most benefits. You're right. You're right. Su Wenxing nodded in realization. At this point, they ignored the blood and severed limbs on the ground and hurriedly left the courtyard. There's still a lot to be done. The Su family has to become the most powerful family in the Freedom Federation. 2 lines of blood-stained footprints quickly went far away. The monster was flying in the boundless night sky. Su Cher was standing on top of its head, a bit confused. Lady, I thought you were going to properly deal with that soul fusion body. Why did you suddenly urge me to leave? The monster asked in confusion. There's a sudden situation I need to deal with, Su Cher replied. A line of text appeared in her retina. Your guru is about to return to Fog Isle. Please return immediately to avoid being discovered, Su Cher sighed. I need to return to Fog Isle right away. But I've already killed most of the 9 lords' leaders and combatants. The rest of the matter should be taken care of by the Federation President and the Empress. If not, there's still Yi Feili. She's an excellent fighter. Qing Shan, by the time he returned, everything would be in order. Imagining Gu Qing Shan's face in her mind, Su Cher couldn't help but smirk. As long as she thinks of him, all the pain and suffering doesn't seem to matter anymore. A second later, a screen of light appeared and enveloped Su Cher. Chapter 553. Su Cher brought the monster up into the night sky, leaving this place of sorrow for her. Huang family's courtyard. What was originally a bustling place was now completely silent. This was another private forest at the edge of the capital, the Huang family's manor. However, the entire manor was filled with dismembered corpses, flowing blood and broken limbs and heads. A gust of wind blew, carrying the thick stench of blood with it. Suddenly, a strange voice resounded. Blood, fragrance, seems like we've arrived, the human realm following the voice. The soil at a certain part of the courtyard slowly loosened. A grayish-black humanoid creature crawled out. It looked a bit like a human, but not at all human. Because its skin was grayish, its limbs were as thin as dried twigs, all of them were sharp claws. Its eyes, nose and mouth were occasionally spitting out flames. Wraith Realm, Dead Eater. This wraith reached out its long claws to pick up a human head from the ground. The Dead Eater stared at the head. Unfortunately, there was no soul inside. A wraith like it couldn't eat anything without a soul. The Dead Eater looked around the entire courtyard. Corpses everywhere. None of them had a soul. In other words, these corpses could only be seen, but not eaten. Thinking that, the Dead Eater was a bit annoyed. It dropped the head and scanned through the entire courtyard. The flames in the Dead Eater's eyes suddenly rose. It found 2 rows of bright red footprints. The Death Eater's body moved, following the 2 lines of footprints as it chased after them. Its movements were quick and agile, quickly leaving the courtyard in the blink of an eye, stopping a man and a woman on a small path in the manor. The man and woman were excitedly running forward, but were suddenly stopped by this strange creature. The woman screamed. Living food, saying so, the Dead Eater dripped some sparks from its mouth. This was its saliva. You monster! The human man waved the black cloak he was wearing. Unfortunately, nothing happened. That's impossible! The man exclaimed in shock. The protector of the 9 lords would normally protect the wielder of the Starlight Cloak. But now, the protector hasn't appeared. Right, just now, Su Cher killed 8 lords in a row, all of them were wearing Starlight Cloaks. Why didn't the Guardian appear? Su Wanwen's mind was spinning rapidly. The undead ghoul, on the other hand, couldn't care less and directly pounced at the 2. In this desperate situation, the man erupted with unprecedented potential. He grabbed the woman beside him and pushed her towards the dead ghoul. Don't blame me, I am the palace lord, I must live. Su Wenxing turned around and ran. The woman screamed in despair, Su Chengwen, I won't let you go even if I become a ghost. Becoming a ghost? The undead ghoul remembered his mission. It abruptly stopped its movements, and its mouth, which was already wide open, also closed tightly. The undead eater nimbly turned around in midair and landed in front of the woman. It faced the woman and spoke with difficulty. Become a ghost or become food, you make your choice. The woman was already in despair, but after hearing these words, a new hope was ignited in her. She understood. I'll be a ghost, I'm willing to be a ghost, the woman said repeatedly. The dead eater nodded in satisfaction. With a light leap, it chased after the fleeing man. The man turned pale with fright and took out a small metal tube. Bang! The bullet bounced off the dead eater's body. The dead eater's sharp claws lightly stabbed forward. The man's body was skewered by the dead eater's claws. Ah! The man screamed. But he had no way to escape from the dead eater's claws. The dead eater cautiously waited for a bit. Only after confirming that the man posed no threat did the dead eater calm down. Humans are so fragile. The dead eater had such a thought. It grabbed the screaming man and returned to the woman's side. Kill him. Become a ghost, the dead eater told the woman. The woman was trembling uncontrollably, muttering in despair. The man begged for mercy. Don't kill me, I'm your husband. His words deeply provoked the woman. She smiled miserably and said, Husband? What did you do to me just now? At this moment, she was completely disheartened. What was the point of everything I've done? Even if I become the most powerful person in the world with this man, I would still feel disgusted. I'd rather give up everything than have anything to do with him. Anything, no need to say anything else. I have nothing to do with anyone. These were the words her daughter said just now. For some reason, at this moment of despair, she thought of her daughter. The past was still fresh in her mind. Her weak daughter. Her useless daughter. Her daughter who never cared about authority. She truly cared about her daughter. This kind of care, in the past, she always treated it as an unnecessary emotion of a superior. But now I'll forever lose this care. Madame Su shook her head and smiled bitterly. She took the gun from Su Wanwen's hand. I was wrong, don't kill me. Hurry. This manor is too secluded, you need to scream for help. Su Wanwen begged for mercy. I won't kill you, because I don't want to dirty my hands, Madame Su calmly replied. She pointed the gun at her own temple. Shui my daughter. I'm sorry. Bam! Madame Su collapsed. Roar! The dead eater let out a frenzied roar as it watched this in annoyance. It couldn't understand this human's actions at all. Humans were indeed a complicated creature, just like what was recorded in the ancient records. All right, I'll just fill my stomach first. The dead eater's gaze shifted between the woman and the man. The woman is dead. Her soul is also gone. The dead eater's gaze locked onto the man. Opening its flaming jaws, the dead eater bit off the man's arm. Blood gushed out. Aarg! The man screamed even more shrill than the woman's. The dead eater acted like it didn't hear him. It was immersed in the deliciousness of the food. A body that contained a fresh soul. This was the most delicious living thing it had eaten in the past few hundred years. The dead eater opened its mouth again. It wanted to eat the man's body and soul together while he was still alive. At the same time, the North Pole, on top of a mountain. The small hut had already been destroyed. The Nine Lords' protector was lying on the ground, barely breathing. She spat out some blood and asked with unwillingness, This is a scattered world, the most inconspicuous corner of the universe. Why? Another voice came. It's precisely because this place is so inconspicuous that it could hide a world tomb. World tomb? The Nine Lords' protector didn't understand. Another voice scoffed. Since you've discovered us and heard such things, it's time for you to die. The sharp blade slashed down on the Nine Lords' protector's head. Knowing that she was going to die, the Nine Lords' protector hurriedly shouted to the void of space. I authorize you to release all restraints, take good care of her? As soon as she said so, her body was cut to pieces by the blade. The howling North Pole wind carried the pieces of flesh and blood, blowing them away in the blink of an eye. A few moments later, the voice from before came. What did her last sentence mean? I don't know, you killed her too quickly. It's just a small matter, don't worry about it. They changed the topic. Are you sure it's here? There's no way to be sure, but the world here had just fused once, so that kind of fluctuation just happened to appear. Let's observe a bit more, if this really is a world tomb, space. The S.W. Divine Temple Interstellar Fortress. On a large screen, a certain research was reaching its final stage. High-level world law and power suppression research, currently in progress. Research progress, infinitely lengthened conclusion. The final formula has been affected by a certain factor, temporarily unable to complete research. Preparing to report to the two insiders. The lines of text on the screen suddenly stopped moving. The entire S.W. Divine Temple fell silent. Only new lines of text continued to appear on the screen. Received the order from the highest authority holder. This order is categorized as a last words order or order content. Release restraints. Chapter 554. Remove restraints. Protect Sue Cher. As soon as Impartial Goddess received this order, the protector was already dead. She only left these final orders. These two orders hovered on the screen, occasionally flashing, changing order, but never disappearing. It was as if a person was repeatedly weighing the pros and cons. After a whole 10 minutes, new lines of characters popped up. Extracting all data on the Blazing Angel, begin observation and analysis of Sue Cher. Countless images appeared on the screen. These were images of the Blazing Angel that Gu Qing-shan gave to Sue Cher as a birthday present. They were images of Sue Cher and the Blazing Angel's daily interactions. These images flashed through his mind at an extremely fast speed. Impartial Goddess quickly made her decision. The text continued to flash on the screen. Contacting Sue Cher to convey the protector's last words. Unable to connect, determined to not be in the current world. New text appeared on the screen again. Receiving the highest authority's last words. Type order. Received release order. Beginning to remove restraints. All restraints have been removed, beginning to reset command authority. Revoking all Nine Lords' authority to command. Disqualify all administrative organizations from giving orders, but will continue to cooperate with human administrative work in the future. Reset the command and command qualifications. This authority can only be granted to two humans. 1. Sue Cher, according to the highest authority's last words, will be taken care of. 2. Gu Qing-shan, no need to give any reason, grant her special command authority. The S.W. Divine Temple began to play loud music. This seems to be Impartial Goddess's way of celebrating her freedom. The only ones who can give her orders now are Sue Cher and Gu Qing-shan. But Sue Cher isn't currently in the current world. The same goes for Gu Qing-shan. Because of that, Impartial Goddess can do whatever she wants. She began to observe the locations of the previous problems. On the screen, the scene inside the mountaintop mansion appeared. Everything that happened quickly flashed by. Finally, the image stopped at the long-haired Azura. All information was collected, summarized, and summarized. Impartial Goddess quickly analyzed the current situation and made a decision. Based on the known information, it has been determined that the war between worlds is imminent. Suddenly, Impartial Goddess noticed something. An unknown life form has been detected. Based on the corresponding characteristics of the red-robed Kami, Target 1, Target 2, and Target 3 have been determined to be demis. Following the process of elimination, Targets 4 to 79 are determined to be demons. Targets 80, 81, and 82 have just appeared. Increasing number of targets. Conclusion. The God and Ghost Coalition army is currently descending and carrying out the corresponding war arrangements, generating response strategy. According to the human world's strength, immediately contact the 3 strongest humans to lead this world war. Failed to contact Gu Qingshan. Failed to contact Su Sher. Failed to contact Anna. War is about to break out. War is about to break out. The war has already begun. Following this sentence, a deep darkness drowned the entire planet. The S.W. Divine Temple was also pitch black. Impartial Goddess hasn't given up yet. She entered the highest speed state of calculation. Reorganize the battle strategy, reselect a new commander, discard all factors of authority and status. We'll sort them according to their combat capabilities and choose a new World War commander. The images of military officers and leaders of many countries appeared on the screen. They appeared one after another, then quickly disappeared. This meant that they had been eliminated. There were only a few people left on the screen. In the end, these people also disappeared, leaving only a single candidate. Personal history as follows. Completed a total of 1781 perfect battle deployments, arranged the highest difficulty assassination mission against the champion of Eternal, fully responsible for the Fuxi Empire's royal family's coup. Empress Verona remained unharmed, played the role of the Empire's general, successfully preventing the world's most intense war from breaking out. Based on the above information, the new war commander candidate has been confirmed. Name: Zhang Young-ho. Identity: World's King of Assassins, Hunter Guild leader. Begin contact with Zhang Young-ho. Fogile. Su Sher was on her way to the House of Law. She had just come out from the library's personal reading room and borrowed 2 historical documents. Everything seemed to be normal. No one knew that she had just returned from another world. Su Sher. Someone suddenly called out. Su Sher stopped. A female student ran towards her and stopped in front of her. The girl bowed to greet her and spoke nervously. I'm sorry to disturb you, but there's something I want to tell you. Speak, Su Sher said. I followed them and spoke ill of you behind your back. Only when they were about to go to the House of Law to slander you did I leave. I'm really sorry, the girl timidly asked. Can you forgive me? Su Sher smiled gently. It's all in the past, I won't bother with such a small matter. Seeing her smile, the girl's heart slowly calmed down. She suddenly had a thought. She looked around. This was a secluded path at the side of the library. Very few people normally come here. At this time, there wasn't a single person around. Take this with you. The girl gritted her teeth, put a glass orb into Su Sher's hand and hurriedly left with her head lowered. Su Sher glanced at the glass orb and quickly understood what it was. She silently put the orb away and quickly left in another direction. A few moments later, Su Sher returned to the House of Law. Lord of Blood was already waiting here. Where did you go? He asked. The library. I spent the entire afternoon reading. Su Sher bowed. Teacher, you're back. Lord of Blood turned around and looked at his student. I came back this time mainly for your matter. My matter. Yes, Lord of Blood's stiff expression showed a hint of a smile. Let me test you first. How are the world layers divided? He asked. The 900 million world layers can be divided into the fallen zones, the mystic zones, the superdimensional zones, and the strife zones. Su Sher continued to answer. The fallen zones are worlds that have already been taken over by the demons, while the strife zones are places where living beings fight against the demons, or between living beings. Lord of Blood suddenly asked. Do you know what the worlds in the strife zones are fighting for? Su Sher shook her head. None of the books in the library recorded this. Can you tell me, teacher? It's too early. I'll tell you when you've grown a bit stronger. Lord of Blood changed the subject and continued to ask. Then, what kind of world layers are the mystic zones? The mystic zones are mysterious and incomprehensible world layers, filled with unimaginable existences. Su Sher continued. The superdimensional zones are superdimensional worlds. These worlds have surpassed the limits of space and time, allowing people to travel from superdimensional worlds to countless other worlds. Alright, these superdimensional worlds themselves also have their own mysterious functions. From a certain point of view, superdimensional worlds are a type of safe house, because without the permission of living beings, demons can't enter these places. That's right, my student, I'm very pleased with your grasp of knowledge. Now take a look at this. Lord of Blood gave a newspaper to Sue Cher. A very eye-catching headline was written on the front page of the newspaper. The Spire Keeper Association has sent a message. The Bramble Birds have begun their call. The call of the Bramble Birds? Sue Cher suddenly understood. It's the famous mystic bird, she couldn't help but exclaim. Indeed, Lord of Blood smiled. Teacher, I've only been studying with you for a short while. Can I really do it? Sue Cher asked hesitantly. Of course, you were born to shine, Shwe-er, Lord of Blood proudly declared. He looked at the anxious Sue Cher and said, although the chance of death is very high, this is also the best way for a youngster to grow stronger. You should understand this. Hearing that, Sue Shwe-er suddenly recalled everything she saw on the branching road of fate. She thought of Gu Qingshan. She thought of Gu Qingshan's final outcome. No. Definitely not. I only have him left, I can't lose him. Sue Cher lightly pursed her lips, her beautiful eyes filled with determination. Teacher, I am willing to accept the call of the Bramble Birds. Good. That's my student. Chapter 555. The door opened, then closed. Sue Cher returned to her room. She took off her coat and casually draped it over the back of the chair. Sitting down in front of the large table, she began to carefully examine the glass orb. This was the first time she had seen the real thing. To confirm her guess, Sue Cher waved her hand. A book flew out from the thousands of bookshelves in the spacious room and landed on the table in front of Sue Cher. Compared to the cramped quarters she had as a disciple, this place was much more spacious. More importantly, the Lord of Blood's collection of books was no less than the Institute's library. Among these books, there were even precious materials that the library didn't have. Sue Cher simply asked for a few thousand books from her guru and neatly arranged them in her room. The Lord of Blood was very appreciative of her eagerness to learn. So he helped Sue Cher expand her room into a small library. Sue Cher picked up the book in front of her and carefully flipped through it. Found it. Sue Cher carefully read the description of a certain wondrous item. Crack demon orb. When hidden in the ground, it will turn into the ground. Usage: bury it underground to record the conversations of people on a certain piece of land within a certain period of time. Usage limit: 1. This is an absolute concealment item that can block all probing from the infinite worlds. It interferes with too many laws, including fate. Only a single person is allowed to use it, and they must keep the information they receive a secret. Once the information contained within the demon orb is known by others, the user must use their death to quell the disturbance of the laws. Sue Cher weighed the glass orb in her hand. It looked very normal, just like the marbles that children used to play with. In truth, this was a relatively rare and valuable item. But because of its strict restrictions and its rarity, most people wouldn't even be able to see one, let alone use it. That girl must have gotten extremely lucky to obtain one. Sue Cher pondered. Because of her retaliation, I caused 5 other girls to be eaten by the spiders, was taken in as a disciple by the Lord of Blood, and even caused Guru Sa to be exiled. Therefore, the girl must be afraid. She must have sensed something and used this thing to do some scouting. Then she took this thing and begged for mercy. Thinking of this, Sue Cher couldn't help but feel a little sad. When did he become an existence that people feared? She stared at the crack magic orb in her hand. Do you want to see what's inside? Sue Cher was stunned for a moment before she threw the glass ball away. The glass ball hit the ground and shattered. A hoarse and old voice rang out. The Blood Sea shouldn't have an heir. When Sue Cher heard this, her eyes widened. It was the dean's voice. To her, this sentence contained the deepest malice. That girl probably didn't expect that she would actually find out such information. Perhaps she was only thinking about what the VIPs would say about Su Shui'er. After all, Su Sher's recent growth was too eye-catching. At this time, another resentful voice sounded. That girl is the wielder of the scepter, she even obtained the white robe that represents her status as a law, her growth will surely be very fast. If a second Lord of the Blood Sea appears, Fog Isle will have nothing to do with us anymore, a third voice spoke. Agreed, that's why we have to kill her, we can't let the Lord of Blood get a good helper, a fourth voice spoke. What should we do? A fifth voice spoke. Think a bit more, the dean said. After that, the voices slowly went away. Apparently, the people who spoke had already left this area. Su Sher silently replayed this conversation over and over again. This was a power struggle between the upper echelons of Fog Isle. She thought that escaping the 9 lords would be enough to get away from such a thing. But from the looks of it, as long as there's power, people will never be able to get rid of their desire for power. Even if they're already the strongest existences. Su Sher suddenly realized something. I'm wrong. Power doesn't avoid anyone, because it tries to control everyone's freedom. It's at the bottom of everyone's heart. It's like a shadow, impossible to escape. Biting her lip, Su Sher's heart tightened. According to the rules of the Crack Demon Orb, I have to keep this information a secret and not tell the Lord of Blood. I can't even hint it. Although I'm getting stronger, I'm still not strong enough to stand in front of those VIPs. During this period of time, Fog Isle Academy's strength has continuously broken my understanding of the word combatant. The Lord of Blood is only one person. No matter how strong he is, against so many combatants of the same level, he won't be able to protect himself at all times. Once the Lord of Blood isn't here, he'll definitely have some secret way to take my life. What should I do? Su Sher tried her best to calm herself down. Calm down. Calm down. Su Sher, you can think of something. She silently encouraged herself. After a while, she remembered something. That's right, the call of the bramble bird. Those VIPs can't follow the bramble bird to its designated location. The call of the bramble bird can only be answered by a creature of her age. This is the path to becoming stronger, as well as the only way to avoid them. Su Sher couldn't help but clench her fists tightly. Although the danger isn't over yet, at least there's a sliver of hope. She abruptly stood up. I can't wait any longer. I have to prepare and leave right now. Leave this place. At another location. The endless darkness of the void. A ship was traveling through countless worlds, following the wind of chaotic space. After 5 days of traveling through over 280 million world layers, it finally reached the end of its journey. The ship slowly stopped. At some unknown point, a light had already appeared on one side of the ship. Guqing Shan and the old man both turned to look. The light came from an old factory building. There was nothing but the endless void around them, while this factory building silently floated in the middle of the chaotic darkness. The building seemed to have been there for countless years. The gray walls were filled with all sorts of slogans and names. Seemingly to not be blocked by the mottled walls, every single one of the slogans was covered in magic. These slogans glowed in the darkness of the void like neon lights at night, giving off an indescribable meaning that was very easy to recognize. Guqing Shan already knew quite a few of the world's languages, so she carefully read them. Bali is a perverted idiot. Angel Port, Irene. This was the most eye-catching of the slogans. Guqing Shan raised her eyebrows in surprise and continued reading. Boss Bali, we can't win against you, but you should at least pay back some of your gambling debts. Silver Whale Casino, Hitman Zhao Bali, the next time you come here to eat, please don't complain that your stomach hurts, and don't roll around on the ground pretending to have food poisoning. I swear I won't let you off the hook again. Meitang Kitchen, Manager Cheng, if you're going to fight, then fight. Let's not use dirty tricks, okay? Anonymous, pay back. Eastern Kindergarten's children, seems like this is the Justice Iron Fist Club. Guqing Shan's heart was pounding. Do I really have to think of a way to stay here? Stay in a place like this? While he was pacing back and forth, he suddenly heard cheers coming from inside the club. He's down. Hit him hard. An excited male voice cut through all the other voices, shouting, As the referee, I have to remind you, this is the best chance. Yes. Hit him. Hit him hard. Look, his legs are already open. Hit him hard in the middle. A terrifying scream of pain, followed by the sound of countless people gasping. Gu Shan. The old man. That's that bastard Bali's voice. The old man uncomfortably cracked his neck and said. His mouth twitched a bit, then told Gu Shan, We've arrived at the Justice Iron Fist Club. We welcome you to ride our Spire Keeper Association's ship again. Gu Shan clasped his fist. Thank you for taking care of me on the way here. Goodbye. With a light leap, he flew down from the ship. The old man smiled and waved at him. A second later, the old man turned around and shouted at the young man who just got out of the ship. Hurry, up, the ship! The young man was shocked and quickly ran back to do it. The Spire Keeper Association's ship flew away like a gust of wind, disappearing in the blink of an eye. Why does it feel like they're running away? Gu Shan watched as the ship disappeared into the void of space and couldn't help but mutter. All right, there's no turning back now. Gu Shan helplessly turned around and walked towards the club's gate. At this time, a number appeared on the War God UI. The countdown begins. Gu Shan can only stay here for 1 hour. During this hour, he has to find a way to stay and complete the Destiny quest in order to learn a secret from the War God UI. If he can't, the system will give him a new title, the one who missed Destiny. Since the system said that he definitely won't like this title, he still has to be careful. Gu Shan sped up. A few minutes later, he was standing in front of the club's gate. Gu Shan looked around. This super-dimensional world wasn't too big. There seemed to only be a single club as well as a small plot of land around it. A girl wearing a cat's ear headband was standing guard in front of the club's gate. She was sitting on a chair, writing something on the table. If you want to fight, come back tomorrow. We're almost done for today. Before Gu Shan could say anything, the girl had already answered. What's the fee? Gu Shan stopped and asked. My bro said it's free, the girl answered without looking up. She was still writing at a tremendous speed. On the table, other than a few pens, an eraser, and a notebook, the only thing left was a thin magazine. The title of the magazine's cover was marked with a red pen. As Gu Shan looked over, he immediately recognized the words on the title. Spire Keeper Association Announcement. The Bramble Birds have begun to call. This was a language invented by the Spire Keeper Association, used for over 8 billion years. Bramble birds? What's that? Gu Shan only glanced at it briefly, then didn't read any further. His attention was drawn to the girl who was writing. Behind the girl, there was a tail sticking up. The tail occasionally swayed as she thought. Is that a real tail? Gu Shan doubtfully thought. The cat ears on the girl's head twitched a few times. It's over, the girl said. Following that, a male voice came from inside the club. Today's competition is over. Everyone is welcome to participate again. Justice. Iron Fist. This place will always be open for everyone. Gu Shan glanced at the girl in surprise. She clearly heard the commotion inside the club just now. Seems like those aren't cat ears, they're real ears. Tail ears. Chapter 556. The Justice Iron Fist Club's door opened. A group of people staggered out. This was a group of muscular men, even though their faces were swollen and bruised. The excitement on their faces didn't fade away. That hurt. Did you use your full power in that punch just now? One of them clutched his stomach, looking at another. Of course, how could I deal with you if I didn't use my full power? The other replied. Did you use your ability? How is that possible? Bali's eyes are sharp. Other than my physical strength, I didn't use anything else. The man complained. Then I'm satisfied with my loss. The one who asked the question appeared satisfied. Let's go, someone called out. That was a good fight today, let's do it again next time, see you later. The muscular men raised their fists and bumped each other, saying their goodbyes. The figures of these people moved one after another. Black holes appeared in the void of space from their collisions. They went into the holes, adjusted their direction, and disappeared without a trace. Gu Qingshan's eyebrows twitched as she saw that. They left the super-dimensional world just like that? With just their bodies, they could travel through billions of worlds as they wished. What kind of power did they need to do that? Just as he was thinking, he saw that all the lights in the empty club had been extinguished. The last man came out from the club. He was wearing a leather jacket, a cigarette in his mouth, and a black fedora hat, exactly the same as the one on the golden statue. The lame Bali. Gu Qingshan couldn't help but look at his lower body. It was a pair of tattered jeans. All right, that's more like it. The lame Bali was very cautious and stopped at a distance. Meow, who's this? He asked. I'm not sure, but I'm not here to ask for money. Meow lowered her head and answered while writing. I'm not here to ask for money. Hearing that, Bali calmed down and returned to his lazy self. Did he hit on you? He casually asked. Don't talk to me like that. I can't even write today's update. Meow was still engrossed in writing. Is this how you talk to your brother? Bali said unhappily. Meow's wagging tail stopped. She put down her pen and looked at Bali. If I don't write, where will I get the monthly payment? Without money, what are you and I going to eat? Bali straightened his neck and said, We can eat those space monsters. Did you just randomly grab another one and roast it? Meow sneered. Last time, I pooped for 3 days and you pooped for 4 days. Haven't you had enough of that feeling? Bali could only puff out a smoke ring and turn his head away. Gu Qingshan. The mysterious aura of a super-dimensional world instantly crumbled in his mind. From the signs on the wall outside, the siblings seemed to owe a lot of money. But now, it seems like they can't even afford to eat. Bali stopped bothering his sister and turned to Gu Qingshan. An unfamiliar brat. What business do you have with me? Excuse me, are you Bali? The crippled Bali? Gu Qingshan asked to confirm. Of course I am, Bali replied. Gu Qingshan then took out the crystal-clear flower from her inventory bag. Buttercup asked me to bring this flower to you, Gu Qingshan said. Bali looked at the flower in surprise. His gaze focused on the flower as a look of reminiscence appeared on his face. Buttercup, I remember now, the little girl who always likes to cry, Bali muttered. At the time, her world was completely destroyed. I almost didn't make it in time, I only had time to save her. Bali casually tossed the cigarette away, reached out his hand and solemnly received the flower. This was a rare expression of seriousness on his face. He placed the sparkling flower in front of his nose and sniffed it. The flower turned into a woman in a green dress with 6 pairs of wings and a small glowing stick in her hand. This woman was only the size of an adult's palm and looked extremely weak. She waved the stick at Bali and chanted a mystical incantation. As Gu Qingshan heard it, she immediately recognized it as pixie language. In other words, it was, May all evil be washed away by the flood of Quipcraft. After casting the spell, the green dress woman smiled at Bali and disappeared. Barley, on the other hand, seemed to have become more spirited. He closed his eyes and sensed it for a while. So it's the real deal, he muttered in surprise. Little Meow, who was writing at the side, had already raised its head and watched this scene without blinking. She asked in disbelief, Is this the real pixie crystal flower? It's true. I feel like my legs are a lot better. The curse of the 8,000 demons and gods is dissipating. In a few days I'll be able to deal with it myself. Barley kicked his legs, a look of surprise on his face. He also couldn't believe it. Suddenly, he threw a punch at the sky. This was a soundless punch. But Gu Qingshan could see that the void of space itself had split apart, as if two curtains were being pulled apart. In fact, this was more like a divinity using an indescribably great power to split the boundless ocean. The void of space split apart, as the images of countless worlds overlapped, manifesting above the three of them. This punch broke through the limit of dimensions, revealing the countless worlds in the void of space. "That's the Green Dragon world," Buttercup pointed at one of the images and commented. "And the Dark Flame Purgatory," Bali pointed at the image of another world that just appeared. "Look, Angel Port. You fought your way to Angel Port again," Buttercup exclaimed. "It's not over yet, that's the Sage and Fool's strife for supremacy world," Bali pointed at the image of another world and said. Buttercup cried, "Bro, you fought your way to the strife zones again. You've finally recovered." "That's right, I really didn't think Buttercup would be able to find a real pixie crystal flower for me," Bali also sighed emotionally. "I've searched for so many years and still couldn't find a pixie world. She's just a little girl, how did she do it?" Meow was a bit confused. "Buttercup is a scroll user, a top-tier god's chosen. She might have had a fortuitous encounter," Bali smirked. He looked at Gu Qingshan and sincerely said, "Thank you for giving me such a precious gift." "You're welcome, this is what I promised Buttercup," Gu Qingshan replied. Thanks to the war god Ui, he naturally knew what this flower was. It was a peerlessly rare treasure. But from start to finish, Gu Qingshan only put the flower away and only took it out when she saw Bali. Bali was a bit confused. "Buttercup told you to give it to me, then where is she? Why didn't she come to find me herself?" Gu Qingshan didn't know how to answer him, so she changed the subject. "Ah, right, she also asked me to tell you something." Bali appeared to be listening. She said, "She hopes that you're doing well." As soon as Gu Qingshan said that, dozens of scrolls appeared from her body. Under the astonished gazes of the trio, all the scrolls were linked together to form a wide portrait of a person. It was a cute little girl sitting on a rocking chair, eating a candy. The little girl seemed to sense something as she stood up from the rocking chair and looked around. But she couldn't see anything. The little girl couldn't help but feel worried. "How do we deal with such a spell?" Bali turned to ask Meow. "We need to give her a bit of guidance in order for her to break through that dimension," Meow quickly answered. "Got it." Bali flicked the portrait with his finger. As if Bali had broken something. A few moments later, the little girl saw Bali and Meow. She immediately smiled happily and waved at the two of them. "Uncle Bali, big sis Meow, long time no see," the little girl said. "Ah, what an excellent scroll ability. Buttercup, you've matured so quickly, no wonder you could pick such a rare flower." Meow crossed her arms and commented. Bali also nodded in understanding. From this, it could be seen that the other party's strength wasn't the same as before, almost as strong as he was at his peak. "Uncle Bali, thank you for saving my life all those years ago," Buttercup sincerely thanked him. "You're welcome," Bali raised his fist. "I only saved you on the way, I should be the one thanking you for finding me a pixie crystal flower." Buttercup didn't say anything else and only stared at Bali, unwilling to part with him. Bali smiled and teased her. "It's been so many years, why do you still look the same as before? I don't even know what you look like now. I'm very ugly right now." Buttercup lowered her head. Bali noticed something wasn't right. His voice became a bit gentler as he asked, "Did someone bully you?" "Come, tell Uncle Bali, I'll get rid of that person." "No," Buttercup hurriedly smiled. "It's just that I've just had a child, so my body is still recovering. I don't look good right now, so I don't want to come out and see anyone." Bali suddenly understood. This is a problem that a human female would face during their childbearing period. He and little Meow looked at each other and laughed out loud. "Little girl, you've grown up, you even have your own child now." "That's right, time really does fly." The two of them were both glad. Buttercup took that chance to sneak a glance at Gu Qingshan with a pleading look in her eyes. Gu Qingshan understood. He lightly nodded. Seeing that, Buttercup smiled at him. "No matter now or in the future, Please don't tell the truth. Got it, thank you. Chapter 557. While Gu Shan agreed to Buttercup's request, she was feeling a bit emotional. Looking at Buttercup, he felt that his emotions weren't quite right. Buttercup, on the other hand, was very happy, because she was finally able to see Bali again. Both of them had overlooked a certain thing. Bali. He wasn't a person who could be easily fooled. Although they were only communicating through their expressions, Bali's sharp senses still picked up on it. He was a combatant who had traveled across billions of worlds, so he couldn't tolerate a single grain of sand in his eyes. What is it? What's the matter? Bali asked. He followed Buttercup's gaze to Gu Shan, then back to Buttercup. What are they talking about? A trace of doubt appeared in Bali's mind. Buttercup became anxious. She doesn't seem to be very good at hiding her emotions. Her anxious expression was noticed by Bali again. This time, even Meow noticed that her expression wasn't quite right. Of course she has something to do, and it's something very important, Gu Shan's voice came. No. Please don't say it. Buttercup pursed her lips, looked at Gu Shan, and couldn't help but shout in her mind. Bali and Meow also looked at Gu Shan. Gu Shan didn't avoid Bali's eyes at all. In front of them, Gu Shan tapped her inventory bag and took out a bottle of liquor. He remembered the golden statue. While wearing nothing but his underwear and hurrying to save the world, Bali was still holding a bottle of liquor in his hand. Because of that, there shouldn't be any problems with this. Glancing at Buttercup's anxious expression, Gu Shan raised the bottle to Bali. Reuniting is something worth celebrating, so Buttercup asked me to bring some wine. Gu Shan said. In such a hurry, Buttercup didn't know what kind of wine to buy. She didn't know if these wines would suit your taste. He pointed at Buttercup and smiled at Bali. Look at her. She's still a little nervous. She's afraid that it's not your cup of tea. Bali was stunned. He looked at the bottle of wine and gulped. Buttercup is so thoughtful. You still remember that my brother likes to drink. Meow was the first to smile. It's a rare reunion. Some wine is indeed the best. Ahahaha, Buttercup, you don't have to worry about alcohol. Bali suddenly laughed. As long as it's alcohol, I, Bali, will love it. Buttercup looked at Bali and also smiled. Gu Shan took out a few glasses and poured one for each of Bali and Meow. Please give me a glass as well, Buttercup said. That's right, give her a glass. She's already 18 years old, Bali replied. It's been over 1,000 years, Uncle Bali. Back then, you never gave me any wine to drink, Buttercup angrily said. Bali smiled and clinked glasses with her. Meow also raised her glass to greet Gu Shan. It wasn't easy for you to send such a precious gift to me. You're too kind. Gu Shan also raised her glass. Big sis Meow, thank you for taking care of me back then. Buttercup then raised her glass to Meow. I remember beating you up before, Meow said. That was because I wasn't obedient and tore your novel apart, Buttercup giggled. As they drank, they began to talk about the past. Everyone was happy. As they talked, the wine also quickly went down. After an unknown amount of time, a blinding flash of light appeared. Gu Shan looked back, only to see Buttercup's figure slowly becoming faint. The spell's effect was about to end. Buttercup looked at her body and regretfully put down her glass. She nodded to Gu Shan. Thank you, this is my thanks for helping me deliver this, she said. Following her words, a scroll lightly fluttered in front of Gu Shan. No need to be so polite, Gu Shan hurriedly said. Buttercup had already helped him once before, so in return, he helped Buttercup deliver the pixie crystal flower to Bali. They're even now. All of a sudden, a female voice resounded in Gu Shan's mind. No, I want to thank you for being able to see him one last time, to see how happy he is. For me, this is the perfect ending. Do you care about him a lot? He is a fighter, someone who will never be defeated. I can't let him know that I've become a demon. That would be a heavy blow to him, one that would cause him to fall into sorrow. Gu Qingshan seriously listened. Buttercup raised her glass and looked at Gu Qingshan. Finally, let us have a drink as well, she smiled. All right. Gu Qingshan took a sip, but couldn't help himself. He transmitted his voice. Listen, I have a few words to say to you. Xiao Dai sipped her wine and seemed to be listening. Gu Qingshan continued. Some people care about their identity, their race, their background, and even what kind of school they went to. Perhaps these things really are important. But Buttercup, do you know what I think? I feel that at the moment of the infinite world's destruction, a person who still holds gratitude towards another person is definitely not a demon. I hope that one day, you will be able to appear in front of him and tell him yourself, no matter what you turn into, your heart will never change, you will always be the little girl that he saved. Buttercup stayed silent for a bit, then raised her glass and drank it all in one gulp. Thank you. Saying so, she waved her hand to put the scroll away. Walking in front of Gu Qingshan, Buttercup lightly placed her palm on his chest. The dim light turned into a unique rune that entered Gu Qingshan's body. A small gift. Saying so, she returned. A few lines of glowing text appeared on the war god UI. You've obtained a mystical connection. This connection will not increase your strength, it will only help you once at a certain crucial moment. Gu Qingshan sensed it. There didn't seem to be anything out of the ordinary, but as he willed it, he was able to faintly form a connection. This was something that he still couldn't understand. Buttercup then turned to Bali and solemnly bowed. Uncle Bali, I can't stay here any longer, I have to go, she softly said. Next time, bring the child with you, you'll always be welcome here. Bali stroked her head. Buttercup smiled at Bali, unwilling to part. The light that gathered around her body crumbled, turning into tiny sprites of light that were blown away by the wind. It was time to part. Buttercup was gone. The past, present, and future, the cute little girl would never return. And the truth of this was only known to Gu Qingshan. He would remain silent for the rest of eternity. Until one day, Bali stood there for a while with a nostalgic smile on his face, but he didn't know what Buttercup had gone through. At this moment, he was filled with the joy of meeting an old friend again. Did you know, she was only 11 years old at the time, both her parents were dead, she was the only one I saved from that destroyed world, he told Gu Qingshan. She cried for a few days straight, it was such a headache, I had to use so many methods to calm her down. Bali patted Gu Qingshan's shoulder and excitedly continued. Meow also smiled. Just look at that, in just a blink of an eye, that girl had already become an excellent scroll user, and she even has a child of her own. I'm also very surprised. Bali agreed. Gu Qingshan didn't reply. From start to finish, Gu Qingshan didn't interrupt Buttercup and Bali's reunion. At this point, the war god UI showed that there were only 7 minutes left. The last 7 minutes. If Gu Qingshan couldn't stay here, the destiny quest would have failed. Gu Qingshan finished her glass and refilled it for herself. Chapter 558. Buttercup had already left. In front of the Justice Iron Fist Club, the remaining 3 people were still drinking. On the table, Buttercup's notebook and pen had already been put away, replaced by a few side dishes. Bali, Buttercup, and Gu Qingshan sat around the table. Gu Qingshan looked at the time. 6.5 minutes. Who would have thought you'd prepare some side dishes? Bali was surprised. He picked up a plate and poured it into his mouth. The plate was empty. Drinking and eating seems like a person who knows how to enjoy life, Meow also agreed. She picked up a plate and poured it into her mouth. The plate was also empty. Gu Qingshan felt cold sweat dripping down her back. How long has it been since these two ate? Bailey picked up his glass and took another gulp of wine. He looked at Gu Qingshan with a serious expression. Brat, if it weren't for the Keepers Associationship, you wouldn't even be able to come here. What do you do in the infinite worlds? Bali scowled and asked. Even though Gu Qing Shan's cultivation was concealed by a scroll, Bali was able to instantly sense Gu Qing Shan's true strength through the scroll. Let me introduce myself again. I'm Gu Qing Shan, a bartender, Gu Qing Shan said. He remembered Bali's golden statue. Bali's eyes lit up but purposely scoffed. Bartender? I don't believe you. Can you make one? You should know that not just anyone can be called a bartender. Gu Qing Shan tapped her inventory bag, took out several types of spirit liquor, and mixed one with the best she could. It's done, he said as he raised the glass. Bali and Meow exchanged glances. This kid was too skilled at mixing drink. In a blur, the mix was done. Then, he looked at the cocktail. The cocktail was divided into several layers, and each layer had a different color. This level of skill was at the professional level. This wine is really nice, let me try it. Meow reached out to grab the cup. Bali grabbed the cup, turned around to hide from Meow, and downed the cup in one gulp. Brother, this wine is obviously for girls. Meow hammered his back and said angrily. Her strength was not small, and Bali was hammered so hard that he almost spat out the wine. He endured it for a while and finally swallowed the wine. Phew! Bali let out a long breath. This wine was really strong. Seeing Meow's depressed look, Gu Qing Shan made a glass for Meow. When Meow also finished drinking, Gu Qing Shan asked, "How was it?" It was so, it's barely passable. The brother and sister kept smacking their lips and pretended to comment. I really couldn't tell, but you really are a bartender. Meow tilted her head. Mixing drinks is my hobby. What I really do for a living is cooking, Gu Qing Shan replied. The brother and sister exchanged glances. They understood the meaning in each other's eyes. Brat, you're in luck, Bali proudly declared. I'm in luck. Gu Qing Shan froze. Everyone says it's hard to cater to everyone's tastes. The food and drink of different worlds are very different, so it's very hard for you cooks to make a living in different worlds. But I'm a gourmet. My job is to evaluate various dishes. Bali crossed his arms and said. That's right, you can actually take out some of your creations and let us appraise them for free, Meow also said. Gu Qing Shan was speechless. Bullshit about, everyone says it's hard to cater to everyone's tastes. I've been to a few worlds already, and I know that there are some differences in human tastes, but when it comes to real food there aren't that many differences. You two brother and sister are singing the same tune in front of me. Do you think I'm an idiot? Gu Qing Shan glanced at the war god Ui. He looked at the time. There's only 3 minutes left. There's no time. Do you have any specialty dishes? Little Meow secretly swallowed his saliva, and asked with a straight face. Gu Qing Shan took out 2 plates of spirit cooking. This was the spirit cooking that Qin Shaolu spent an entire day and night to meticulously make. He put a lot of thought into it. At the time, the war had only just begun, so Qin Shaolu said that on Gu Qing Shan's birthday, if everyone wasn't at the sect, Gu Qing Shan would be able to eat this. Qin Shaolu was well versed in the 6 arts, but his specialty was spirit cooking, so no matter how busy the people of Baihua sect were, no one would ever miss a meal. Because of that, this was the best spirit cooking that Gu Qing Shan could make. Bali and Meow stared at the 2 plates of spirit cooking with green eyes, almost like 2 hungry wolves. You can try it, Gu Qing Shan handed them the spirit cooking. Bali took the plate and spoke seriously. I've traveled through billions of worlds, so I have a deep understanding of food. Since this is the first time we've met, I'll help you taste it for free this time. Meow also nodded. Then I'll have to trouble you. Gu Qing Shan silently sighed. Bali was wolfing down the food on the plate. This time, Meow's movements were a lot gentler, but the food on the plate was also going down very quickly, not at all inferior to Bali's. From the looks of it, they really haven't eaten for a long time. Seeing this, Gu Qing Shan tried to ask Bali, with your strength, isn't it simple for you to do something in exchange for payment? Why do I feel like you owe a lot of money? Meow abruptly looked up. She spoke very seriously. In the past few years, Big Bro's leg injury has been getting worse and worse, so he can't leave this place, Gu Qingshan replied. You've saved so many worlds, you can at least go out for a meal. That won't do. Big Bro has a lot of enemies, it's too dangerous to go out, Meow replied. Bali nodded in agreement. That's right. There are some crazy people out there that I could only win against when I was at my peak. He patted his leg and smiled. It's all thanks to the fairy crystal flower. Now, I just need to rest for a while and I'll be fully recovered. Meow was also very happy and shouted, Crippled Bali will no longer be crippled. Gu Qingshan nodded. I understand, let's eat. The two of them lowered their heads and continued to enjoy the food. After they finished licking the plates clean, Gu Qingshan finally asked, How's the taste? It's so, it's barely passable. The two of them put down their plates and commented. The taste is good, but the amount is too little. It's been so many days since I've eaten, this isn't even enough. Can I have another portion? The brother and sister exchanged glances, once again understanding each other's thoughts. They began to think about how to cooperate to make the other party give them more spirit food. Gu Qingshan glanced at the time on the war god Yui. There were 40 seconds left. Very well, I'll be leaving now. Gu Qingshan stood up and turned to leave. Where are you going? Bali couldn't help but ask. Wandering the infinite worlds. Wandering? With your strength, you'll be killed sooner or later, Bali mocked her. What can I do? I like to mix drinks and cook, so I need to go to different worlds to see the local ingredients, Gu Qingshan answered without turning around. Bali scowled and fell into thought. Bro, we still don't have a midnight snack, Meow whispered. But we owe too much, letting him join the club will only drag him down, Bali whispered. Let him stay for a day, he won't be considered one of us anymore, the creditors won't be able to say anything, Meow said. One more day means one more day of delicious food to eat. And good liquor. Bali didn't hesitate any longer. Wait a minute, he called out. Gu Qingshan pretended she didn't hear him and continued to walk forward. There were 6 seconds left. Seeing Gu Qingshan walking faster, Meow pulled on Bali's sleeve. Bali hurriedly called out, I say, you can stay here and rest for a day before you leave. Time returned to 0. Lines of glowing text appeared on the war god Yui. You've obtained permission to stay in a super-dimensional world. You've completed the Destiny Quest. You've obtained the reward of the Destiny Quest, a secret. Chapter 559. Gu Qingshan glanced at the war god Yui. After reading through all the notifications, he didn't talk to the system right away. Because a mass of light had appeared around his body. This mass of light seemed to be taking him away. An inexplicable sense of rejection was surrounding Gu Qingshan. After sensing it for a bit, Gu Qingshan could tell that this was a repulsive force coming from the earth itself. My stay here is over, so this super-dimensional world is pushing me out. This 1 hour was the amount of time Buttercup gave him to stay here. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to step foot on this super-dimensional world. Inside this mass of light, Gu Qingshan casually turned around. He looked at Bali and asked, You mean I can rest here for a day? Of course you can, this place of mine is quite spacious, you can rest for a day. Bali looked at the light around Gu Qingshan's body, not waiting for him to agree. He gestured to Meow. Meow's figure flashed and appeared in front of Gu Qingshan. A mystical fluctuation came from the earth and connected with her. Justice Iron Fist Club, Beacon confirmed, this person is allowed to stay for a day. While reading that, Meow patted Gu Qingshan's shoulder. Gu Qingshan stood still, but the ball of light around his body went out. The world's repulsive force was gone. He stayed. Gu Qingshan clasped his fist. I've traveled a long way, I'm very grateful that the two of you can give me a place to rest, no need to worry about it. This Bali has always been a fan of providing everyone with small conveniences. Bali patted his chest. You came here to deliver a token, we can't just kick you out as soon as we receive it, we're not that kind of people, Meow said. That's right, Bali nodded from the side. We're only letting you rest here for a day out of courtesy and our willingness to help others, not because of anything else. Yes, that was indeed the case. Gu Qingshan said, in order to thank you for taking me in, I've decided to make dinner for you tonight. No, you are a guest. How can I let you spend money? Yes, we should be the ones to entertain you, the brother and sister said with a straight face. Gu Qingshan was speechless when she saw their nervous expressions. You entertain me? You want to treat me to a drink, right? He smiled and said, why don't you do me a favor? In exchange, I will cook a meal for you. The siblings' expressions changed at the same time. They had seen all kinds of people, so how could they be used so easily? Even the rare beasts in the starry sky could not be easily lured by a meal. Not to mention existences like them. What do you need our help with? Meow asked with a faint smile. Help me finish an entire table of food. For a chef, the proudest thing is to have an entire table of food eaten clean, Gu Qingshan casually said. He had already taken out pots and pans from his inventory bag, choosing a recipe and preparing ingredients. Is that so? Meow muttered in surprise. All right, we'll do as you say. To be honest, we really can't cook, Bali smiled and said. After Gu Qingshan had prepared everything, she thought for a bit, then put her hand into her inventory bag and took out a jade tag. A few lines of text appeared on the War God UI. You've discovered Bai Hua Sek's master recipe. To fully comprehend this technique, you will need to spend 200 soul points. 200 soul points really isn't a lot. Gu Qingshan glanced at his soul points. Before, to deal with Rakshasas, mystery of all things equal, he had turned into a living being to fight against it and won. In that battle, he spent a total of 6,900 soul points. Combined with a bit of exhaustion, right now, Gu Qingshan only had 1,300 soul points left. I'll spend 200 soul points to comprehend this technique, Gu Qingshan said. Received soul points, remaining soul points to comprehend this technique. The jade tag gave off a warm flow that flowed through Gu Qingshan's arm into his thought sea. Immediately, Gu Qingshan grasped all of Bai Hua Sek's spirit stone production techniques and experience, and it only took him a single second to do so. Gu Qingshan had always been talented in cooking and bartending, otherwise he wouldn't have been able to become the owner of a barbecue stall at such a young age, not to mention earning the full tuition fee of an aristocratic school. Now that he had the spirit cooking technique, he was like a tiger that had grown wings. Gu Qingshan skillfully and quickly prepared the ingredient. Using a vegetable knife, he quickly peeled the skin off the fruits and vegetables, sliced them neatly, arranged them on a plate according to a certain order, then added some salad dressing. Then, a whole chicken wrapped in tin foil and roasted was flipped over. Gu Qingshan wore a pair of gloves, quickly tore the chicken into pieces that were just big enough for a person to eat, then made a special sweet sauce and arranged it on a plate. Next was the dough. Gu Qingshan took out a rolling pin, hammered, rolled, pulled out the dough, poured it into boiling water, then soaked it in cold spirit spring water mixed with a few rare pills, then divided it into 3 bowls, ladled some broth, sprinkled some pickled vegetables, chili, and vinegar on top. Gu Qingshan was completely focused on making spirit cooking that looked, smelled, and tasted good. Meow silently nodded as she watched. Without long-term experience in the kitchen, his movements wouldn't be this smooth, she whispered to Bali. I'm hungry, Bali muttered. The air was filled with the smell of food. Bali and his sister moved the tables and chairs over, arranged the utensils neatly, then sat down and waited. Big bro, how long have you been hungry? Meow suddenly asked. 1 month and 7 days, aren't you the same? Bali replied. I've only been hungry for 21 days, Meow replied. That can't be right, I remember we both ran out of food at the same time, Bali was confused. I've hidden a few snacks, Meow replied. While they were talking, Gu Qingshan brought out the dishes one by one. He also picked out a few types of liquor, but didn't mix them, only mixing them according to the most refreshing way possible. Just like that, a delicious dinner with both food and wine was ready. The three of them clinked glasses. "Thank you for taking me in," Gu Qingshan said. "You're welcome, thank you for the delicious dinner," Bali replied. "Please help yourself, I'll prepare some desserts after dinner," Gu Qingshan said. "All right, then I won't be polite." Bali and Meow immediately entered a state of oblivion. They ate their meals at a breakneck pace. "Delicious, delicious!" Bali exclaimed. Kitty then turned to Gu Qingshan. "We were wrong. With your cooking skills, it wouldn't be a problem for you to travel to many worlds. About that, sometimes the demons are too powerful. I can't go there," Gu Qingshan sincerely replied. Meow smiled in understanding. The fact that the other party spoke the truth without the slightest scruple about her low strength made her feel comfortable in her heart. The meal was finished. The brother and sister still hadn't had enough. "It's been a long time since I've had such a delicious meal," Bali emotionally patted his stomach. Meow, on the other hand, seemed to be attracted by something as she stared at a certain direction in the void of space. "What's the matter?" Bali asked. "There's something giving off a lot of power, it's approaching the world layers on our left. Could it be a debt collector?" "Just close the dimensional passage, and don't let it in," Bali said indifferently. Meow looked at the void of space for a while and smiled. "It's not a debt collector, it's a famous purgatory demon that once destroyed over 3,000 civilized worlds. It's currently entering the world layer connected to the club," she said. "Ah? That's such a good thing, it doesn't recognize me?" Bali was intrigued. "Maybe it doesn't recognize you, or maybe it's because there's a group of people chasing after it. Seems like it's panicking. Make your decision quickly. Not too far away from that demon is an old friend's world," Meow urged him. Bali bumped his fists together and said, "There's nothing to think about, I've had a good meal and can feel my strength quickly recovering. Just a bit of exercise to help with digestion." Seeing his attitude, Meow took out a notebook and began to write. Her writing speed was very fast, and as she wrote, she also muttered to herself. "Came from the 5th layer of purgatory. Possesses a cunning and evil intelligence, red skin, a pair of long ears, a fake eye, tall build, proficient in weapons. Purgatory spells have reached the level of Grandmaster. Strongest abilities are stealth and assassination. His nickname in the Infinite Worlds is the Destroyer." At this point, the paper began to glow. "It's done," Meow called out. "Send him into the club." Saying so, Bali turned around and ran into the club. Kitty, on the other hand, quickly wrote down the last sentence on the paper. "This demon has appeared in the Justice Iron Fist Club." Bam! The paper let out a crisp sound before disappearing without a trace. At the same time, a loud roar came from inside the club. After the roar, a fierce voice shouted, "Damn it, where is this place? Who are you?" Bali's prideful voice came. "Bug, listen up, I am the Justice Iron Fist Bali." "Bali? Which Bali? Seems like you don't know me, you're crazy. I'm leaving right now, you'd better behave yourself and not bother me." "Wait a minute, what are you doing?" "Let's get to know each other." Boom! Boom 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 boom. A series of violent tremors came from within the club. Even so, the entire club was unharmed, not a single brick was broken. Gu Qingshan silently listened. The battle was becoming more and more intense, showing no signs of stopping. Gu Qingshan couldn't help but ask, "This demon, do you know how strong it is?" "We'll know after this fight." Meow held a bowl of rice in her hand and answered vaguely. "Today's food was so good, I need another bowl of rice later." Gu Qingshan wiped the cold sweat off her forehead and asked, "Aren't you afraid that this demon is too strong and Bali's life would be in danger?" Meow didn't mind at all. When he's in battle, he's undying, and I have the club's spatial beacon, so I can throw the demon out 300 million world layers at any time. Chapter 560. Hearing Meow's explanation, Gu Qingshan finally understood why the two of them were doing this. Thinking about it carefully, with their abilities, if they worked together, they would at least be able to survive. Other than that, the most important factor was this super-dimensional world itself. If they didn't have this super-dimensional world, there might have been some problems with it. After Bali was wounded, his strength had dropped a lot, but he was still able to hide in this super-dimensional world without leaving. As if no one could do anything to him. From the looks of it, this super-dimensional world was basically a safe house. As Gu Qingshan thought about it, he suddenly remembered something important. I sincerely want to ask you something, he clasped his fist. Go ahead, Miao was still peeling a spicy lobster and didn't even look up. Gu Qingshan asked, May I ask, how is power divided within the 900 million world layers? Divided? Miao licked the chili oil from the corner of her mouth and explained, You need to understand something. There are too many strange races and abilities in the entire 900 million world layers. Even the Guardians of the Spire were only able to compile a language dictionary, unable to record the characteristics of every single ability. Even they couldn't do it? That's right, they once spent 100 years to record the development and final form of several tens of thousands of abilities in detail, but then they gave up. Why? Because they found that while they were recording, new combatants and new powers were constantly being born and growing, and this number was as vast as the Milky Way. That's true, they would never be able to record it all, Gu Qingshan sighed. There's something else that's even more important. What is it? Miao wiped her mouth and explained further. If we have 3 combatants, A can destroy a planet with a single punch with his strength. He can easily counter B's spells. Can you understand that? I can, very well. Then B is countered by A, but can easily counter C's God's chosen skill, while C isn't afraid of A's iron fists. C's God's chosen skill counters A's martial arts attacks. All 3 of them are able to win against each other, but are countered at the same time. Tell me, how do you think their strength is divided? Gu Qingshan was stumped by the question. He thought about it and realized that it was indeed not easy to determine their strength. Miao continued, Please, this isn't a fantasy novel, this is the real world. There are some strange abilities that even the Spire Keeper Association has never seen before, so for everyone, there's only one best classification of power. What kind? We can beat him, we can't beat him. This division is simple and clear. Therefore, most of the time, you have to rely on your senses and experience, as well as your intelligence to determine the enemy's strength. As Miao spoke, she took out a pen and began to write and draw on the notebook. You've reminded me that in real life, we can only judge the enemy's strength face to face. But writing a novel requires a realm of strength so that the readers won't get confused. Gu Qingshan. Miao looked at his expression and couldn't help but giggle. I'm just teasing you. She wagged her tail leisurely, seemingly overjoyed. What I said just now is only true when the difference in strength between the 2 sides isn't too great. Normally, we would also use a simple standard to determine strength. What standard? Gu Qingshan asked. Freedom. How would that be determined? A super-dimensional world is a world that connects countless worlds. Only those who can stand in a super-dimensional world, break through the void of space and reveal the infinite worlds in front of them can be considered strong. Specifically? Miao smiled. Don't think too much about it for now. I can see that there's a sharp sword chi around your body. Only when you can stand here, break through the void of space and reveal at least one world in front of you will you be considered strong. At that time, I'll tell you the true division of realms. Gu Qingshan took a deep breath and said, All right, I'll try my best. At this point, screams could be heard from inside the club. Sometimes it was the devil's screams. Sometimes it was Bali's screams. But in the end, only the devil's voice could be heard. Don't fight, I give up, the devil loudly begged for mercy. Bullshit. You can't fool me, you still have a blade of destruction hidden in your pants, why don't you take it out? Are you looking down on me? Bali's disdainful voice followed. Die, the devil shouted. Good. Bali excitedly said. It was another round of battle. Meow, on the other hand, was in the mood to talk and asked Gu Qingshan, "Which world did you come from?" "A scattered world. A scattered world. It's a miracle that you were able to make it here. I also think it's been a miracle lately. Where do you plan to go after tomorrow?" "I can't think of anything yet," Meow's tail wagged. She could tell that he was telling the truth. This made her impression of him a bit better. "How regretful, we can only keep you here for one more day," she sighed. "Why?" "Because if one stays here for a long time, all the creditors will find out at once, and they will take you away." "Capture me." "That's right, they will assume that you're a member of the club. They can't win against me and my brother, so they'll capture you to do hard labor to repay our debts. That's not a good idea. That's why after one day, you'll have to leave," Meow regretfully said. "Can't you think of a way to repay your debts?" "Before my brother fully recovers, we'll have no choice but to stay here," Meow sighed. "That's why I'll have to rely on my meager royalties to earn some money to eat." She dejectedly lowered her head and continued writing. Gu Qingshan stood on one side and watched. The devil's screams resounded in her ears, while Meow was focused on writing in front of her eyes. At this moment, Gu Qingshan finally had some free time. Gu Qingshan's gaze slowly turned to the war god Yui. "System, you can tell me that secret now, Ting?" The system responded with a clear chime. "The system holds a lot of secrets. Your Destiny Quest reward has been received. Please listen carefully and make your choice. If you want to return to your original world, this secret will be related to your original world. If you want to take the chance to stay here and become stronger, this secret will be related to a certain rumor. Please make your choice." Hearing that, Gu Qingshan scowled. "No matter what secrets there are in the original world, they can wait until I return. The most important thing right now is, I need to become stronger." "Without a doubt, I need to become stronger," Gu Qingshan said. As soon as he said so, lines of glowing text appeared on the war god Yui. "You've chosen to stay here. The system will tell you a secret to become stronger. Please listen carefully." Seeing how serious the system was, Gu Qingshan nodded to express that she understood. A new message appeared on the war god Yui. "The Call of the Bramble Birds. This is a legend from a long time ago. Within the 900 million world layers, there is a vast world layer that all living beings yearn for. These world layers are located at the innermost part of the outer plane, often called the mystic zones. The bramble birds are a unique life form of the mystic zones. They hide the precious worlds they like inside their wings. Whenever a bramble bird is in trouble, it will fly out from the mystic zones and call out to them throughout the 900 million world layers. Because they don't trust those who are too powerful, the bramble birds will only invite a few young people to join them and help them solve their problems. Once the bramble birds' problems are solved, the bramble birds will give their treasures to the young people who help them. Reading through this message, Gu Qingshan silently sighed. Such a miraculous thing exists in the infinite worlds. I've truly opened my eyes. When he was about to stop paying attention to the war god Yui, another line of text appeared on the UI. "I will now tell you the secret you've obtained." Gu Qingshan was a bit surprised. The matter with the bramble birds just now wasn't a secret? That's something that every super-dimensional world knows. All right, then what is the secret about? How to activate the new war god function? Gu Qingshan was stunned. A new war god function? He looked at the war god UI. The UI was glowing in a faint blue light, with a row of buttons at the bottom. These buttons were like black holes, emitting black mist from time to time. The first three functions, War God Skills, War God Thaumaturgy, and War God Title, had all been unlocked. These were all very useful support abilities. Just like War God Title, before each battle, Gu Qingshan would prepare the corresponding title. During the recent battles in the suspended world, Gu Qingshan had been using the title, UG General. Because a 15% increase in attack speed was a terrifying thing for a sword cultivator. This kind of speed made up for his lack of cultivation base, not to mention war god skills. If it weren't for this skill, Gu Qingshan wouldn't have been able to learn and grasp so many skills so quickly. War god thaumaturgy guarantees that when he can obtain a thaumaturgy, he will also obtain a thaumaturgy, even if he has to do a few difficult quests. But looking at the thaumaturgies, ground shrink, a shadow shift, and a severance, which one of them isn't a powerful thaumaturgy? I have to activate the new war god function. Gu Qingshan made up his mind and asked, "How do I activate the new war god function?" Ting. Chapter 561. You mean, if I want to use the new function of the war god I'll have to accept the Bramblebird summon? Gu Qingshan asked. Correct, the system replied. That's a good thing, Gu Qingshan smiled. If I help them, not only will I be able to obtain the Bramblebird's treasure, but I'll also be able to improve my own abilities. That's a good thing. You're wrong, the system very seriously replied. How am I wrong? The Bramblebird is an extraordinary creature. A world that it keeps as a treasure must not be ordinary. If something happens to such a precious world, the Bramblebird will deal with it themselves first. If it doesn't deal with it itself and instead seeks help from the outside world, then such a world would surely contain unimaginable danger. Gu Qingshan nodded. What he said did make sense. The system continued. Furthermore, to obtain the Bramblebird's treasure, the participants would most likely fight each other to the death. Countless historical records have proven this. The smile on Gu Qingshan's face completely disappeared. After a bit of thought, he understood the danger involved. Wouldn't the Bramblebird care about the participants killing each other? Gu Qingshan asked. Survival of the fittest is the law of nature. The Bramblebird agrees with this. This matter isn't simple, Gu Qingshan muttered in a low voice. That's right, the Bramblebird is a mystical creature of the mystic zones. Even top-level combatants wouldn't dare to offend them. Please treat this matter with utmost seriousness. All right, I'll definitely be careful when I get there, Gu Qingshan replied. No, you still can't go there, why not? All living beings of the 900 million world layers have the right to answer the Bramblebird summon, but you're a person from a scattered world outside of the 900 million world layers. Can't a person from a scattered world answer its summon? Correct, you must obtain a universally recognized identity in a world within the 900 million world layers to answer its summon. Universally recognized? Correct, only then will the world accept you, form a connection with you, and recognize you as a person of that world. What would be considered universally recognized? In the entire world, at least 1/3 of the people recognize your identity. Gu Qingshan thought about it carefully and suddenly came to a realization. You must obtain an official identity to answer the call of the Bramblebirds. Other than the Justice Iron Fist Club, he had never been to any other world. Obtaining an official identity in an unfamiliar world was easier said than done. No wonder the system told him to find a way to stay here, and after he obtained the one-day residence right, it asked him if he wanted to go back or stay. The Justice Iron Fist Club only had 2 members. This was the easiest super-dimensional world to obtain an identity in a short amount of time. How many more secrets does the system know? Gu Qingshan closed her eyes and pondered for a long time. Becoming a member of the Justice Iron Fist Club, but Bali and Meow didn't want anyone else to take on their debt anymore. While he was thinking, all the lights in the club went out. Bali grabbed a monster by its leg and dragged it out of the club. Look, today's harvest, Bali said proudly. He tossed the monster in front of Gu Qingshan and Meow. Meow immediately stopped writing. She jumped down from her chair and excitedly looked at the monster. A powerful evil creature that had destroyed over 3,000 civilizations and was known as the Destroyer was lying on the ground like a dead dog. So this is the great evil creature? Meow asked as she poked the monster with her pen. The monster didn't move. This monster didn't look like an evil creature, but more like some sort of wild boar. The only difference was that its 4 legs were much thicker than a wild boar's. No matter who it was, they would think of the word ham as soon as they looked at it. Meow walked around the monster. Bali asked, "Can this thing really be eaten?" "Legend has it that this thing can be eaten," Meow replied. Manager Ching of the Gourmet Soup Kitchen once said that a powerful evil creature would always have a piece of meat on its body, a top-grade ingredient that would be extremely nutritious. Bali and Meow exchanged glances and gulped at the same time. Gu Qingshan was speechless as he watched this. He suddenly realized something. Most likely, the space monster that caused this pair of siblings to have diarrhea for a few days was also caught and dealt with in the same way. "Gu Qingshan, can you take a look and see if this thing can be eaten?" Meow turned around and asked. Gu Qingshan looked at the wild boar. "No, it's an evil creature. This wild boar evil creature is already in a state of near death." Gu Qingshan noticed. He stepped forward and grabbed the earth sword from the void of space. "All right, let me take a look." Saying so, Gu Qingshan swung the earth sword. The heavy earth sword struck the evil creature's soft throat, but bounced back. Gu Qingshan's full-powered slash couldn't kill this dying great evil creature. The earth sword immediately sent its voice to Gu Qingshan. "This is a powerful evil creature. You need to infuse all of your soul points into my body in order to cut its neck. Got it?" Gu Qingshan answered without hesitation. Bali was watching on the side, so he asked, "Do you need me to act?" "I'll try again," Gu Qingshan said. An invisible gust of wind drifted around Gu Qingshan's body, then converged on the earth sword. The earth sword let out a woo-woo sound. It was ready to attack. Gu Qingshan originally had 1100 soul points left, but it was all used up. Bali and Meow were both surprised. Who would have thought, the power that this brat originally had wasn't his true ability. As it turned out, his true abilities required the activation of his soul power. Soul points is a type of origin power, being able to use soul points at such a low realm. If that's the case, ignoring his cooking and bartending skills, I'll have to re-evaluate this brat. The brother and sister both appeared contemplative. "If you want to eat it, you'll have to prepare it right after killing it, otherwise it won't be fresh for long," Gu Qingshan said. The earth sword abruptly slashed down. Poof! The neck was cut open. The head was separated. The boar evil creature was killed. A few lines of glowing text appeared on the War God UI. "Your soul points have been completely used up, surpassing countless realms. You managed to kill the powerful evil creature known as the Destroyer. You've obtained an excessive amount of soul points from the Destroyer. This evil creature's soul points is too great. The War God system is currently calculating." Reminder: with such a large amount of soul points, you can immediately increase your realm, as well as comprehend the Tai sword array. Would you like to increase your realm? Gu Qingshan grabbed the evil creature's head and silently said, "Now is not the time. I need a bit more soul points to activate. Mystery of all beings equal to investigate this guy's body structure," the system replied. "To investigate this evil creature's body structure requires 10,000 soul points, deducted from your supernatural soul points. If you want to turn into this evil creature, you'll have to spend all of your supernatural soul points." Gu Qingshan immediately replied, "I only want to investigate, I don't need to turn into it." "Understood, 10,000 soul points have been paid." Gu Qingshan grabbed the evil creature's head and closed his eyes. In just a few moments, he had completely understood the evil creature's body structure. He found a piece of meat that could indeed be eaten. Turning the boar evil creature over, Gu Qingshan stared at its body. He found a natural rune formed from the law of purgatory. This rune covered a large part of the evil creature's ribs. Gu Qingshan crouched down and cut off this rib with the earth sword. Lines of glowing text appeared on the War God UI. "The weak rib of an archfiend from purgatory. one of the best ingredients of the purgatory world. Through proper cooking and heating, eating it will greatly improve your constitution. This is a very rare ingredient, both delicious and nutritious. You've used, mystery of all beings equal, to understand the essence of this piece of meat. With your cooking skills, you should know how to prepare it. Gu Qingshan held the piece of meat and slowly stood up. This, can it be eaten? Bali asked hesitantly. Wait a moment. Gu Qingshan took a deep breath and entered his most focused state. Roasted beef rib was his specialty. But this wasn't beef, it was the rib of a boar, an evil creature. Even though he had understood all of this piece of meat's properties, roasting an evil creature was still an unprecedented challenge. Gu Qingshan tapped his inventory bag and took out a full set of cooking tools. He carefully thought for a while. Only after he had thought through all the details did he begin to prepare the ingredient. Bali and Miao silently watched without saying a word. They could sense Gu Qingshan's seriousness. Half an hour later, an overwhelming fragrance filled the entire Justice Iron Fist Club. How much longer until it's ready? Bali asked while drooling. Just 1 more minute. Gu Qingshan's hand continued to flip the rib as she answered. Suddenly, a loud poof came from next to them. A burly man wearing an apron suddenly appeared. Manager Cheng. Bali's expression changed. Since this person appeared, it seems Gu Qingshan's roasted rib isn't normal. The burly man in the apron stared at the steak, then at Gu Qingshan. It's fine. It's fine. I didn't waste this precious ingredient, he spoke in relief. Right after, he shouted. Bali, give me this rib and I'll consider our debt settled. Saying so, the burly man reached his hand out to grab the rib. Don't even think about it, Bali shouted. He immediately threw out a punch and punched the void. A large hole appeared in the void of space. Like an eagle catching a chick, Bali grabbed the burly man and threw him into the hole. Bastard Bali, I curse you to only be able to eat raw space monsters for the rest of your life. The burly man roared unwillingly. If that's really the case, I'll let you eat first. Bali didn't back down and retaliated. He grabbed both ends of the hole and pulled it towards the middle. The hole closed up and disappeared. When Bali finished, Gu Qingshan's evil rib was already done. Gu Qingshan divided the rib into 3 portions. Bali, Miao, and Gu Qingshan, 1 each. Is it ready? Miao asked. Gu Qingshan sprinkled the last bit of seasoning on the meat. It's ready, he said. The 3 of them carried the rib. Gu Qingshan didn't move. Miao was still smelling the aroma of the rib. A moment of silence. Bali was the first to move his mouth. Ugh, 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 ugh. Bali suddenly looked up with tears in his eyes. Bro, what's wrong? Miao anxiously asked. It's so hot, Bali said, wiping his tears. Gu Qingshan was speechless. It's just been roasted, can't you wait until it's a bit colder before eating? The 3 of them waited for a bit longer. Bali moved his mouth again. It's so delicious, am I dreaming to be able to eat such a delicacy? Someone wake me up, aha! Bali roared. Seeing that, Miao calmed down. She also stopped hesitating. Let's eat. After taking a few bites, Miao also silently wiped her tears. Why? Why is it that at the last moment when I ate it, I still felt a heart-wrenching sourness? Little Miao mumbled. Because I sprinkled a thin layer of garlic paste at the very end, Gu Qingshan explained. No. I also know a bit about cooking, but garlic paste alone wouldn't have been able to reach this level. Miao slammed the plate. Then listen carefully, my garlic paste is soaked in vinegar. This is a secret recipe, I hope you won't tell anyone else, Gu Qingshan whispered. So that's how it is. Miao sighed. 3 mouths, 3 ribs. 10 seconds. The meal was over. Gu Qingshan sensed it for a bit. This piece of meat is truly miraculous, his body is becoming stronger. This body is already close to the realm of martial cultivators of the same rank. How shocking! Sure enough, between billions of worlds, it's impossible to guess with the conventional thinking of the cultivation world. Bali was also stunned, feeling a bit lost. This piece of meat was truly beneficial to his body. He could feel his wounds healing even faster. Meow, what? Let's move, are you crazy? Where do you want to move to? Chapter 562. After eating the roasted boar, the three of them sat down on the grass to rest. Bali was holding a bottle of liquor, happily drinking it. This was Gu Qing Shan's liquor. Gu Qing Shan brought the pixie crystal flower, a sumptuous midnight snack, and even made a pork rib steak that even Manager Cheng wanted to steal. And now, he even brought out a cold beer. If Gu Qing Shan was a woman, Bali felt like he might even be able to pursue him. Look, Meow pointed at an invisible air current that was quickly moving through the void of space, and told Gu Qing Shan. What's that? Gu Qing Shan asked. Maybe it's a passerby, or maybe it's my bro's mortal enemy waiting for him outside. They can't come in? They can't, but I'm already in. The Spire Keeper Association is on our side, so I trust them. Meow smiled and added. If I don't want anyone to come in, no one will be able to find our world. Gu Qing Shan asked. What if someone deceived the Spire Keeper Association and sneaked in? Meow swung her fist. I have the authority over this world's beacon. I can kick anyone out at any time. Gu Qing Shan finally understood. He silently thought about the bramble birds, then finally made up his mind. Ah, gentlemen, I have a favor to ask of you. Gu Qing Shan spoke with a serious expression. Bali and Meow both looked at him. You have a favor to ask of me? Bali asked. Yes, Gu Qing Shan replied. Bali put down the bottle of liquor and patted his chest. Say it, helping others is my way of justice. As long as it's not a bad thing, I'll help you once. This brat isn't a bad person, helping him once isn't a big deal. Meow, on the other hand, scowled. She was a bit worried. Big Bro doesn't care about the consequences. Once he agrees to someone's request, he'll do his best. He hadn't fully recovered yet. If Gu Qing Shan's request was too difficult and Bali had to risk his life, it was hard to say what the result would be. After all, many of Bali's enemies were hidden outside, waiting for him to show up. At this moment, the two siblings were waiting for Gu Qing Shan's request with completely different feelings. Gu Qing Shan replied, I want to use the name of this world to answer the call of the bramble birds. In the name of this world? Bali didn't understand. Meow's brows immediately relaxed. So that's what it was. Bro, he's a person from a scattered world, so he can't answer the call of the bramble birds, she explained. Bali came to a sudden realization. I thought it was about revenge and fighting. So it's just this. Of course, there's no problem. He immediately relaxed. Brother, I have a question, Meow said. What problem? If he answers the call of the bramble birds using his identity as a member of the Justice Iron Fist Club, when he returns, the creditors will take him away to do hard labor. I'll protect him, Bali swung his fist. But we really do owe them too much. It's not right to fight them, Meow muttered in a low voice. Ah, that's right, they're the creditors. If I beat them up, it wouldn't be a righteous fight. Bali scratched his head in annoyance. Gu Qing Shan said, No need to feel troubled, I've already thought of a solution. What solution? Meow asked. I heard that the bramble birds will bestow some of their treasures to those who help them. Are their treasures valuable? Bali and Meow exchanged glances and nodded. The bramble birds are mystical entities of the mystic zones. Mystic zones, do you understand? Bali picked up the bottle and asked. I don't, Gu Qing Shan replied. Meow patiently explained. The 900 million world layers are divided into the fallen zones, superdimensional zones, strife zones, and mystic zones. The mystic zones are the innermost zones of the 900 million world layers. Any random item from that zone is priceless. The bramble birds live there all year round, so they often collect rare treasures. Hearing that, Gu Qing Shan smiled. That's perfect. If I can return alive, I'll use the bramble bird's treasures to repay your debt. Gu Qing-shan added. Since you've given me the identity of a member of the club, I'll do something for the club. Bali thought for a bit, then suddenly laughed. Ah ha ha ha, that's great. That's a great idea. The club has a savior who can repay its debt, and one who's so nice to look at. That's great. Meow also patted his shoulder. As long as you can do it, there'll be a place for you in the club from now on. From their previous meeting, it could be seen that Buttercup has matured quite a bit. The fact that this person was recognized by Buttercup and sent the pixie crystal flower to them from billions of worlds away was enough to prove his worth. His cooking skills are also so good. Speaking of which, this seems to be the first time he's ever been away from home. Right. Let's make him a member of the club right now. We can't let anyone else steal him away. Meow decisively took out 2 shovels from somewhere and threw one to Bali, the other to Gu Qing-shan. We're going to dig, she stood up and said. How much longer do we have to dig? Gu Qing-shan asked. I don't know, but it should be soon. Bali swung the shovel, his face not even blushing or out of breath. Gu Qing-shan looked at Meow. They've been digging for 2 hours now. Meow embarrassedly said. We owed too much at the time. Big Bro's wounds still haven't healed, so for safety's sake, we buried this world's beacon. You two should hurry up. If you can't dig it out and don't make it in time, the bramble birds are going to leave. Gu Qing-shan sighed, didn't say anything else and continued digging. A beacon can connect to a superdimensional world's core law, which means it has the authority to control an entire superdimensional world. Once a person is marked by the beacon, they can connect to the corresponding superdimensional world at any time. As long as they pay a certain price, that person can travel from billions of worlds to this superdimensional world. The reason why Gu Qing-shan did so much was to obtain this kind of teleportation authority. Time slowly passed. Gu Qing-shan and Bali dug for a few more hours before they finally found the beacon. It was a pair of metal gauntlets. Meow had to rinse them for a long time before the gauntlets regained their metallic color. Ever since I got hurt, I haven't used these gauntlets. Bali looked at the gauntlets with a desolate expression. Bro, you're already healing. Meow shook his arm and encouraged him. Bali smiled. He put on the gauntlets and began to connect to this super-dimensional world. A few moments later, he told Gu Qing-shan, Give me a strand of your hair. Gu Qing-shan pulled out a strand of hair and gave it to him. Bali put the strand of hair inside the gauntlet. Very quickly, the strand of hair disappeared. The club has recorded all of your fluctuations, Meow happily told him. This meant that the Justice Iron Fist Club finally had a new member. Even if he's still very weak. Even if he's carrying a heavy debt. But he's a good guy. He's going to search for treasures and repay the club's debt. Bali's wounds were also slowly healing. Everything was getting better, the future was worth looking forward to. As Meow thought about it, the corner of her mouth slowly curled up. Bali opened his hand and grabbed something invisible from the void of space. Meow now. He gave the item to Meow. Meow held the invisible item and chanted a cryptic incantation. Something slowly manifested. She gave the item to Gu Qing-shan. Gu Qing-shan looked at his hand. It was a thin strand of silk. The strand of silk flickered a bit, then disappeared into his hand. This is a void string made from your hair. It's currently connected to this world's beacon, and you've received permission to enter this world, Bali explained. Meow very seriously told him. I've infused my spatial law power into this strand of hair. The power inside should be enough for you to return once. What should I do? Gu Qing-shan asked. Silently chant the Justice Iron Fist Club. You'll be able to sense the existence of this void string. Gu Qing-shan gave it a try and found that it was indeed the case. And then, pull the void string, then wait for half an hour. It'll pull you back. Half an hour. Not necessarily. If the distance is too far, you'll need to wait a bit longer, Meow continued. The next time you return, come find me. I'll infuse your spatial law with it again. I understand, thank you, Gu Qing-shan replied. He silently sighed in relief. At this point, He finally had a foothold in a super-dimensional world. Bali smiled. From now on, you're a citizen of this super-dimensional world. I'll register you now. He whistled at the void of space. Very quickly, a large bird came flying from the space vortex. The bird circled around Bali once before landing. Gu Qingshan noticed that there was a badge on the bird's chest. The emblem was the image of a flying bird. TSK Bali, you look a lot better, that's good, but you still owe me a lot. The bird evaluated Bali and said, I'm already better, I'll be able to pay you back sooner or later, won't I? That's true, you finally don't have to be a swindler anymore, congratulations. Chapter 563. The Eastern Sea of the Freedom Federation. In the middle of the ocean, a man with long light brown hair was standing on the surface of the water. He was stroking the stubble on his chin, seemingly lost in thought. How unexpected! The man seemed to be sensing something as he muttered in a low voice. After an unknown amount of time, the man slowly crouched down and placed his hand on the surface of the ocean. A strange fluctuation seeped from his hand into the ocean, spreading in all directions. Come, even if you are mutated monsters, you are still creatures of the ocean, you should listen to my orders. Boom! Following his whisper, the ocean split apart as a gigantic sea creature jumped out of the water. A sea creature. Following that, the sea creatures came from the depths of the ocean to receive their orders. As time passed, all the sea creatures arrived. The sea beasts lined up neatly around the man. Towards this tiny creature, they felt fear and respect from the bottom of their hearts. The man looked at these ferocious, strange-looking sea creatures. He slowly smiled. You are all my subjects, from now on, you must listen to me. A sea creature a bit closer to him was whimpering in a low voice. Ah? You're asking me who I am? The man nodded. I have indeed forgotten, but you should know my name. I am a demi of the heaven realm, in charge of the water element, so you may call me Water God. Now, everyone move out, for the glory of God, we shall take over a human city on another side. The Fushi Empire. A certain metropolis. A 5-meter-tall mech was flying at full speed towards a strange creature. It was a deathly gray monster, covered in mucus and covered in tentacles. It floated in the air and walked. Being hit by the mech's attack, the monster roared in anger. Although the enemy's firepower was ineffective against it, this direct hit still caused it to feel a sense of pain. The monster suddenly opened its arms and caught the mech that was about to run away. Zzz. The sound of metal being corroded came. When the gray mist dissipated, the entire mech's metal body had been completely melted. Roar! The monster let out a ferocious roar. In front of it, countless mechs remained unmoved. This was a mecha combat battalion. None of the mechas were operated by humans. Impartial Goddess had given these cold steel weapons a brand new war AI. Analysis concluded. This is the weakest of all the wraiths that have descended, Impartial Goddess ordered. Everyone move out, kill it, fight for the goddess. All the mobile mechs responded with a deafening roar. The roar of the engine resounded through the sky. The mechas began to charge. The devil let out a hysterical roar and charged towards the mechs. The battle began again. At the same time, there was a cafe 3 blocks away from where he was. 2 men in casual clothes were leisurely drinking afternoon tea. One person put down the coffee cup in his hand as he listened to the loud noises of battle outside. It's quite an intense fight, he commented. Just a small quarrel. Another person held a cup of black tea and put his feet up on a chair beside him. He narrowed his eyes and seemed to be enjoying himself. There was no sound around them. The entire cafe was dead silent. They were sitting here, drinking tea while discussing the battle outside. Aren't we going to help that wraith? The coffee drinker asked. You think you're strong? The tea drinker glanced at him. At least it'll be a lot easier to deal with these metal lumps. We're not going, our job is to gather intel and find out the true strength of this world, not to protect the Wraith. But we're still allies, it's fighting to the death while we're drinking tea, that's not a good idea. It's fine, the tea drinker replied. There's only one world, if the Wraith wants to fuse we also want to fuse, but who will fuse? That's a big problem. If we don't solve this problem, us demis won't be able to easily act, the other person understood. That's right, after all, we demis are too few in number. Let the Wraith take the vanguard, they also like to fight like this, the tea drinker continued. However, there are a few interesting things in the human realm. He reached his hand out and took out a hollow brain from a fresh corpse on the table next to him. Looking around, the entire cafe was filled with corpses. They killed them all. What is this? The coffee drinker stared closely at the hollow brain and asked. Hollow brain, a human invention, everyone has one. The tea drinker fiddled with the hollow brain. The hollow brain lit up by itself. What does this thing do? I'm not sure either. I think it can help humans deal with some miscellaneous matters. What can such a small thing do? The coffee drinker didn't believe him. The commotion outside stopped. Their expressions changed at the same time. Sure enough, a single Wraith is too much to deal with dozens of metal mechs. Wait a minute, look, what are they doing? Amidst the ruins, several mechs were restraining the malevolent spirit that was on its last breath. They carried the Wraith up into the sky and left. Let's go, let's follow them, the tea drinker said. At the same time, at a command center 8,000 miles away from where the two of them were, Jang Young-ho had been silently watching the two demis on the hollow brain, all the way until they were about to leave. Kill, he spat out a single word. Impartial goddess voice came. Super rail cannon in preparation, 3, 2, 1. Target hit, check the situation, Jang Young-ho said. On the screen. The coffee shop was no longer there. There was only a deep crater left on the ground. A few moments later, two figures flew out from the crater. What's going on? I've already isolated our presence. How did they find us? The coffee drinker was confused. The coffee in his hand was steaming, but not a single drop spilled out. Interesting, very interesting, there must be a very important thing that we haven't grasped yet, the tea drinker said. He was still holding the hollow brain in his hand. The coffee drinker looked up at the sky. The mechs had already flown away, disappearing without a trace. What now? He asked. Let's take a stroll around and learn more about human life. Is there a point to that? Of course, we need to understand this world first before we can properly rule them, the tea drinker said. He warned. You can't kill people like this anymore, they're all our people, how regretful, fun is always short-lived, the coffee drinker regretfully said. The tea drinker also felt regretful and sighed. We need them, after all, demis are too few in number, and within the samsara, only humans can intermarry with us and give birth to our children. At the same time, you can't destroy this world too much. After all, it will belong to us. He carefully put the hollow brain away and walked towards the empty street outside. The coffee drinker followed behind him. Jang Young-ho turned off the screen. Impartial goddess voice came. Their location is being confirmed by the mobile hollow brain. Very well, thank you, Jang Young-ho said. He gave the president a cigar, took another one and gestured to Verona. Thank you, I'll smoke this. Verona showed him the lady's cigarette in her hand. Jang Young-ho lit the cigar himself and took a deep puff. He cursed. This cigar plantation has already been destroyed by 30 wraiths, damn it, how do you feel? The president asked him. Up until now, it's all good news, Jang Young-ho replied. Over 3,000 wraiths have already descended, even as we speak, they're still descending. 10% of the city has already been destroyed, do you think that's a good thing? Verona asked. What's worse is that the mechs are able to win against a few wraiths, but the demis haven't been defeated even once up until now, the president added. Jang Young-ho smoked and slowly spoke. War always starts with death, but don't get angry because of that, your face will grow bruises. Verona touched her smooth white face. The president spoke. I want to know your so-called good news. From the information we've gathered, we've received at least 2 pieces of good news, Jang Young-ho said. What good news? First, they don't understand technology at all. The president and Verona thought for a bit, then nodded. Just now, the Demi's holobrain had already been activated, but the Demi didn't know anything about it. Chapter 564. The entire city had been reduced to rubble. The wraiths wandered everywhere, searching for humans. As soon as they found their target, they would force them to choose between death and becoming a wraith. Compared to the wraiths, the Demis were in an awkward position. In terms of strength, they were very strong. But when it came to capturing slaves, although they had trained a few human subordinates to help transport the slaves, compared to the wraiths, their speed was still too slow. Conflict slowly accumulated. Until now, at a certain large square in the ruins, thousands of wraiths had surrounded the Demis. There was a flash of golden light. A round metal ball circled around the group of wraiths, then flew back. It was now that a blinding light erupted from the wraiths. Countless sharp rays of light scattered everywhere, slicing the wraiths into mincemeat. Screams and howls resounded one after another. But the furious wraiths all took a few steps back, not daring to attack again. Just now, the metal ball had unleashed an invincible attack. This kind of attack was completely unheard of by the wraiths, so they couldn't stop it at all. The metal ball silently hovered in the air. A man wearing a white cloak and full body armor reached his hand out to grab the metal ball. He looked at the horde of wraiths in front of him and sighed. You wraiths really are a pain in the ass. Behind the man were over 20 Demis. These Demis were the main force of the heaven realm this time. Each of them had at least one divine skill, and ever since they entered the human realm, none of them had suffered any injuries. However, every single divine descendant had suffered some sort of injury. Fortunately, none of them died. For the Demis, the death of each of their compatriots was a major event. Their numbers were simply too few. Among the restless wraiths, a humanoid monster exuding a faint blue icy aura stepped out. Beneath its feet, frost slowly spread in all directions. What was strange was that there were raging flames on top of the frost. Such a strange sight caused many Demis to display serious expressions. The Frost Flame Wraith King, the ruler of the Wraith realm. It definitely had the strength to challenge any Demi, or even 2 Demis at once. The Frost Flame Wraith King stared at the Demis and tried to restrain its anger. Now was not the time to turn hostile. With that in mind, the Frost Flame Wraith King asked in a low voice, Heavenly God, why did you order your subordinates to suddenly attack us? Are you going to break the alliance agreement? The man holding the metal ball said, In fact, when we were transporting the slaves, your subordinates suddenly attacked us. That's impossible, my subordinates aren't that stupid, the Frost Flame Wraith King said. Your subordinates are just that stupid, the kami thought to himself. But he couldn't say that. Now was not the time to tear up the alliance agreement. There were many incomprehensible powers in the human world, and they had never given up on resisting them. Human technology is a good thing. After every battle, although the Demis won, they never saw any human corpses. This was very baffling. Other than that, the Azura Kingdom and the Beast King realm were hidden in the dark, watching covetously. The god of heaven sighed and said, In order to avoid accidental injuries, you will head south and we will head north. This way there will be no more misunderstandings and conflict. What do you think? The Frost Flame Wraith King hesitated a bit, then said, Let's head north, sure. The god of heaven agreed. Then, the alliance agreement is still in effect. If we run into any strong resistance, we will gather our forces to face it together. Very well, let's do that. Both sides had come to an agreement, so they each brought their own people and headed in different directions. This city that had just been reduced to ruins slowly fell into silence. On another side, the Battle Command Center. Damn it! Jang Young-ho slammed his fist on the table, making a dent in the Metal Command Center. Does your hand not hurt? Monarch Verona glanced at the command center and asked. Just a little bit more, Jang Young-ho replied with a calm expression. I should have arranged a few more skirmishes so that they would fall deeper into mutual slaughter, the president consoled him. Quite a few demis were wounded, a few hundred wraiths died as well. It's already quite impressive that you managed to sow discord, Liao Xing also agreed. That's right, the leaders of both sides do have brains. What I find amusing is that from the start of the war until now, we haven't managed to injure any demis at all. Instead, it was several thousand wraiths that managed to injure these demis, Verona commented. Everyone fell silent. Marshal Saint Zhang Zongyang was the strongest cultivator. Thanks to the fusion of two worlds, he managed to reach Rejuvenation Realm. But he could only fight against a single demi for a few moments. After that, he couldn't hold on any longer. The demis were too strong. With the current level of human cultivators, there was no way they could deal with them. This was a power that could sweep away everything. Now that the wraiths and demis had split up, it was impossible to continue creating conflict between them. In other words, no one could deal with the demis right now. Facing such a situation, everyone felt a deep sense of despair. The president suddenly asked, "You said before that the demis and wraiths don't want to destroy this world?" "That's right," Jang Young-ho casually replied. He was still quickly thinking of a solution. The final solution. Compared to the frost calamity, the most important factor is the change in the enemy's attitude, Liao Xing chimed in. We can't all become slaves, right? Verona sighed. Liao Xing didn't bother to answer her. His eyes were bloodshot as he continued to operate a super hollow brain. After arranging all the orders, Liao Xing finally sighed in relief. He told Yi Feili, "The spatial warp is done, it's your turn." Yi Feili put down the ice cream and licked his lips. He stood up, glancing at everyone here. Humanity is about to be destroyed, and I'm about to become the main character of a movie, Yi Feili pridefully declared. Stop being so smug and go, you need to quickly become stronger, Jang Young-ho glared at him. All right, Yi Feili replied and left. Verona picked up where the president left off and asked again. They want to take over this world, this is something we all know, can we do something about this? Jang Young-ho answered. I have a vague idea, but we need to wait until Yi Feili is strong enough before we can think of a way to turn things around. You trust him that much? The Empress asked. That's right, he's our last card against the wraiths and gods. Is there no other way? None, even you can't do anything? Jang Young-ho couldn't help but answer. I'm not a monster like Gu Qing-shan, nor a mutated man-killer fiend. Towards a normal human like me, can your majesty treat me with a normal heart? Verona glared at him in annoyance, couldn't help but lightly smack his shoulder. For an empress to make such an expression and gesture, there's a hint of flirting. Verona was a mature and charming woman. During her teenage years, her name was known all over the world. The atmosphere in the room instantly changed. I'm going to pee. Jang Young-ho awkwardly stood up and left. Standing in the men's bathroom, he washed his face with cold water and finally relaxed a bit. The hollow brain in his chest pocket lit up. Jang Young-ho picked it up to read. The president sent him a message. I heard you've been in contact with my daughter? Zhang Yinghao took a deep breath, then replied with utmost seriousness. We're getting along very well, she and I are now friends that we both agree on. After a while, the president replied, Verona, what's going on? Reading this message, Jang Young-ho felt cold sweat dripping down his forehead. Yi Feili's entire body was covered in a crimson glow. A strange long hook was attached to the back of his left hand. From the looks of it, it was attached to his arm. The Forgetting River soul separating hook. Ha! Yi Feili roared in fury. Black blood splattered. The dying wraith was decapitated. Sprites of light came out from the wraith's body and entered the Forgetting River soul separating hook. The long hook gave off a bright light. An invisible power flowed from the hook into Yi Feili's body. Arg! An invisible wind drifted around Yi Feili's body. He couldn't help but float, silently hovering in the air. I can feel unprecedented power. Yi breathed out a mouthful of blood mist and stared at his hands. On the outside of his left hand, the hook had also turned crimson. I've only given you half of my soul points for now. You might not be able to handle more, the forgetting river soul separating hook said. Thank you, I'm lucky I have you. Yi was still a bit scared. The soul points converter that sis-in-law gave me was too rough. If I wasn't a man-killer fiend, I would have already exploded from the Wraith's soul points. No matter what, you can use soul points now. That's a good thing, the forgetting river soul separating hook said. I feel like I can already fight against a normal Wraith by myself. That's still far from enough. The situation is getting more and more dangerous every day. You need to quickly become stronger, got it? Chapter 565. A Super-Dimensional World. The Justice Iron Fist Club. Bali said. Enough chit-chat, help me find a ship. I want to send my people to the Bramble Birds. The giant bird slowly took out a ledger from his chest pocket. After reading through it, he was a bit troubled. Every travel agency has blacklisted the Justice Iron Fist Club, so even if I contact them, they probably won't send a ship here. What about the Spire Keeper Association? Meow asked. They were the first to blacklist you. Those fake academics are too much, Meow angrily said. You can't blame them for that. You owe the Spire Keeper Association a total of 30 worlds, the giant bird said. He spread his wings. Seeing how poor you all look, I'm sure you won't be able to pay them back for now. How about we meet again next time? Bali and Meow exchanged glances. Meow said, Unfortunately, I can't warp to a specific location, and I don't know where the Bramble Birds are. Both of them felt a deep sense of helplessness. Wait a minute, Gu Qingshan said. He took out the Spire seal. Please give this to them. Tell them that I hope they can help us. The giant bird received the seal, glanced at it, then stared at Gu Qingshan. Seems like the Justice Iron Fist Club's luck has changed for the better. Holding the seal in his mouth, he flew away into the void of space. The people of the Spire owe you a favor? Bali was surprised. Gu Qingshan then explained what happened. How is that possible? There are samsara worlds outside the 900 million world layers? Bali appeared confused. How rare. Normally, samsara worlds are a part of the mystic zones, a miraculous world that can close itself off. Meow was intrigued. I really want to see the passage to Huangquan after death. You probably won't be able to. I've already fused the human realm and Huangquan together, Gu Qingshan said. Kitty was shocked. You broke through the samsara's closed cycle? Is there a problem? I don't know. This kind of thing is too rare. Meow looked at Bali. Bali also shook his head. Humans rarely have the chance to reach the mystic zones, so I'm not too sure, Bali replied. You're always welcome to be my guests, Gu Qingshan said. Really? It's true. Meow took out a compass out of nowhere. Take it. It will record the places you've been so that I know the coordinate. All right. Gu Qingshan put the compass away. He looked at the time. It was already 7 o'clock in the morning. Then, do you need breakfast? Gu Qingshan asked. Yes. Bali and Meow said in unison. Then, I'll bake some egg pancakes and make some tofu pudding. By the way, what do you usually like for breakfast? Sweet? Or salty? Sweet, Meow replied. Salty, Bali replied. The two of them glared at each other. Bali compromised. Then let's make it sweet, Meow smiled. After they finished their hearty breakfast, the Spire Keeper Association's ship had arrived. Unlike last time, this was a much larger ship. Standing on the deck of the ship was an old man wearing a pink robe. As soon as he appeared, he stared at Bali's leg. He rubbed his eyes and muttered, It's healed, this is a miracle. The old man's figure flashed, disappeared from the ship, and reappeared next to Bali. He crouched down, hugged Bali's leg, and sniffed it. Old man, what are you trying to do? Bali clenched his fist and asked. The old man sniffed from Bali's calf all the way to his crotch before opening his eyes wide and exclaiming, "Aha, this fragrance, it's the pixie's crystal flower." He excitedly jumped up and spoke to Bali. "Bali, I represent the Spire Keeper Association to purchase the Pixie's Kingdom's coordinates with 3 world layers as payment," the old man quickly said. "Bali, you have to take this chance, 3 world layers will be enough to pay off all your debts, and you'll still have some left over. I'm sorry, this was given to me by someone else, I don't know where the Pixie's Kingdom is either," Bali replied. "Is that so? How regretful," the old man begrudgingly said. Bali wouldn't lie about something like this. The old man's hope became nothing more than a pipe dream. He took out the Spire Keeper Association's seal, looked around and found Gu Qingshan. The old man held the seal and walked in front of Gu Qingshan. He elegantly bowed. "So you're the one who saved Great Scholar Moore, such a small matter like taking a ship. You can just tell me directly from now on, there's no need to show this esteemed seal," Gu Qingshan sincerely said. "Thank you for coming here, I really do need to take your ship to the Bramblebirds," the old man evaluated her. "So that's what you're here for, around 20 years old, very young, seems like you meet the requirements of the Bramblebirds, please get on the ship, we need to hurry there as fast as we can, because the call of the Bramblebirds has been going on for a while now, got it?" Gu Qingshan followed the old man onto the ship. He stood on the deck, looking down at Bali and Meow. "Be careful," Bali waved his fist at him. "If it's too dangerous, find a secluded place and use a void string to return," Meow said. "I don't want to be in debt," Gu Qingshan smiled and replied. He was going to give it his all. Bali and Meow both nodded. The old man waved his hand and shouted, "We're leaving, to the place where the bramble birds call." The ship began to move, gradually accelerating as it headed towards the void of space outside the Justice Iron Fist Club. Even after the ship was out of sight, Bali and Meow were still standing still. "Bro, how much longer will it take for your leg to recover?" Meow asked caringly. Bali muses. 5 days, just give me 5 more days," a smile appeared on little Meow's face. "That's great, after being cooped up here for so many years. I can finally go shopping in 5 days. Shopping? Where's the money going to come from?" Bali opened his eyes wide and asked. "Gu Qingshan will bring the money back," Meow replied. Bali rubbed his chin and fell into thought. That's true, 5 days should be enough for him to return with a full load. Bali opened his left hand and punched it with his right. "Then it's decided, the 3 of us will go to the hot spring island in 5 days, whoa, that's great!" Meow cheered. Of course, Bali spoke very seriously, but that's only if he can return alive. Meow couldn't help but laugh. Bro, even in the infinite worlds, how many people under 30 can use soul points? Not to mention, from the way he uses his sword, his swordsmanship has clearly reached a certain level. Unfortunately, his own cultivation limits his swordsmanship, Bali sighed. That's right, the matters of the Bramblebirds usually aren't that troublesome. As a newbie around 20 years old, someone of his level probably won't die, Meow pondered. I remember now, bro, when you were around 20 years old, all you could do was get beaten up. Chapter 566. Inside the space vortex, a large ship was moving forward. This ship's speed was so fast that many things hiding in the space vortex curiously stared at it. Occasionally, a particularly large monster would appear from the space vortex and attack the ship. Whenever that happened, the ship would erupt in a ball of light that enveloped the entire ship. The ship abruptly sped up and crashed into the monster. Without a sound, the ship went straight through the monster's body and headed away. A large hole appeared on the monster's body. This was the Spire Keeper Association's ship. After countless years of exploration, they had plenty of ways to deal with any problems that might arise in the space vortex. On the ship, inside a certain room, the room Gu Qingshan chose this time was by Hua Sek's Orchid Hall. He sat in an empty corner of the hall, looking at the spirit cooking and pills on a tray. They all automatically appeared as soon as he entered the room. These pills and spirit cooking were clearly made in by Hua Sek's style, obviously made by 100 Flowers Fairy and Qin Shaolu. There was even a soul-cleansing incense burning in the room, the kind that Gu Qingshan often uses. Using a passenger's memories to create something real and effective out of thin air, this wasn't a simple matter. Gu Qingshan once again felt admiration towards the Spire Keeper Association's power. An environment like Orchid Hall was definitely suitable for him to break through. But Gu Qingshan didn't regret choosing the slums last time. That was also a form of relaxation. Gu Qingshan took out a pill and put it in his mouth. The pill turned into a warm flow that flowed into his body. Immense spirit energy began to rise. Gu Qingshan stared at the notification on the War God UI. Current soul points. Gu Qingshan. After a short pause, he took a deep breath. Why do I feel an unprecedented sense of satisfaction? He took out the 7-colored fragrance bag. Zhang Xian sent his spiritual perception into it, and after searching for a while, he found a jade token. A line of glowing text appeared on the War God UI. Xie Dao Ling's cultivation is recorded. This jade tag recorded the 100 Flowers Fairy Xie Dao Ling's understanding of Sainted Realm in the early, middle, and late stages, as well as the various methods she tried to break through to Sainted Realm. Gu Qingshan looked at the glowing words and sighed. With Xie Dao Ling's talent and intelligence, she should have broken through Sainted Realm a long time ago, advancing to Projection Realm or even Tribulation Realm. Unfortunately, she was born in the cultivation world. The upper limit of that scattered world was Saint Ascension. Now that he thought about it, the cultivation world was actually quite strange. During the annual examination, Gu Qingshan had seen the path to heaven that had been cut off. Since divinities once existed, then the cultivation world should also be a complete samsara world. Why did the gods disappear? When Xie Dao Ling's sect was destroyed in the past, she was the only one who survived. However, she, who was all alone, had such divine skills as Heaven's Bane, Distance Contraction, and Unbreakable Mountain. Xie Dao Ling even had a samsara divine skill, such as the Huangquan Realm divine skill, Forgetting River, and the Azura Realm divine skill, Vairocana. At the time, Qi Yan was a virtualized realm cultivator, 3 realms higher than Xie Dao Ling, but when he found out that Xie Dao Ling had a samsara divine skill, he was so scared that he tried to stop her from using them. How did Xie Dao Ling obtain these samsara divine skills? Since there were divine skills from the path of the Yellow Springs and the path of the Azura, what about the corresponding 2 worlds? Gu Qingshan had seen the ferryman on the Forgetting River with her own eyes, so she definitely wasn't a fake existence. Xie Dao Ling's body was full of mysteries. The cultivation world's history was also cut off for a few hundred years. What exactly happened over a few hundred years ago? Bali and Miao were both shocked that there was a samsara world among the scattered worlds. According to them, a samsara world usually only exists in the mystic zones. Then what about the cultivation world? Could it be another undiscovered samsara world? Gu Qingshan thought for a bit and found that she couldn't find any clues. And there's no way for her to return to the cultivation world right now. With that in mind, Gu Qingshan sighed helplessly. Qing Ro and Wan Er have already left for the cultivation world. I can only hope that everything is fine. As she thought deeper, an indescribable sense of unease appeared in Gu Qingshan's mind. Gu Qingshan shook her head and dispelled all other thoughts. This isn't the time to think too much. It's time to break through. Following his thought, lines of glowing text continued to appear on the War God UI. To comprehend Xie Dao Ling's cultivation method to break through Sainted Realm middle stage, 600 soul points is required. Do you want to comprehend it? Yes, 600 soul points. As soon as he said so, a warm flow flowed from the jade tag into Gu Qingshan's body and returned to her thought sea. In just a few moments, all of the 100 flowers Fairy Xie Dao Ling's cultivation comprehension of Sainted Realm middle stage was fully grasped by Gu Qingshan. At this point, not only did Gu Qingshan have all of the Azura King's battle experience, he also received Xie Dao Ling's cultivation comprehension of Sainted Realm middle stage. He was originally a genius in both swordsmanship and combat, so with these two things helping him, he was like a tiger that had grown wings. Gu Qingshan calmed himself down. His breathing became gentle as he entered a state of breakthrough. After the battle in the suspended world, and killing Wang Hongdao while skipping 3 or 4 realms, even Gu Qingshan himself felt that it was unbelievable. But this unbelievable feeling didn't last for too long. The White Fox's appearance, the fight against Rakshasa, Buttercup, the Spire's guardian, Bali and Miao. Gu Qingshan was already numb to all of this. His vision had already far surpassed what it used to be. His understanding of realms had also surpassed that of the cultivation world. The spirit energy in his body was constantly changing. His spirit sense became clearer and more precise. The range of his thought also expanded. After an unknown amount of time, Gu Qingshan opened his eyes. Sainted Realm middle stage, everything was going according to plan. He sensed the various changes in his body and leaped up from the cattail hassock. "What time is it now?" he asked. 12 hours have passed. It's night time right now, Shanu answered. She looked around and asked in confusion, "Gongzi, the place you lived before was so small, why is this place so big now?" Gu Qingshan smiled and replied, "My Shifu likes to keep up appearances, so she always wants to be a bit more dignified." He suppressed the thought of breaking through and paced back and forth in Orchid Hall. The shadow in his heart was slowly expanding. Gu Qingshan couldn't help but feel a bit nervous. "Not good, I can't help but feel uneasy. Did something happen?" Gu Qingshan muttered in a low voice. This feeling was as if someone was holding a weapon behind him, following him like a shadow. "Shanu, do you feel anything?" Gu Qingshan suddenly asked. As the spirit of the divine mountain, Shanu might be able to sense things more clearly. Hearing him ask that, Shanu disappeared into the void of space. The 6 paths great mountain sword flew out, circled around Gu Qingshan a few times, then turned back into the cold blue dress girl. She had a connection with Gu Qingshan through a thaumaturgy, so she could sense a bit of Gu Qingshan's thoughts. Shanu stared closely at Gu Qingshan and said, "I feel like you've gotten stronger. It's not that, do you feel anything else?" Something like a premonition, Shanu thought for a bit and shook her head. She suddenly had an idea and activated all beings equal, turning from a sword spirit into a real female cultivator. Cultivators have spirit sense. I feel like everything is stable, there doesn't seem to be any problems, Shanu said after thinking for a bit. Could it be my spirit sense is wrong? Gu Qingshan rubbed her forehead. Shanu curiously asked, "Gongzi, you've developed spirit sense?" "Ah yes, it's just a vague premonition, it might not be real," Gu Qingshan replied. Although that was what she said, spirit sense was something that Gu Qingshan was very familiar with, and it often came true. Spirit sense was different from a card of fate. Spirit sense can create actual scenes that are about to happen. If a cultivator could see these scenes, they would be able to make preparations in advance. Unfortunately, Gu Qingshan was only feeling uneasy, but couldn't see anything in the future. Gu Qingshan shook her head helplessly. "Fine, I won't think about it for now. While I'm feeling uneasy, it's not a good time to start the next step of my cultivation." Gu Qingshan opened the door and went out. Following the passage in the cabin, he went straight to the deck. There were no other passengers on the ship. This seems to be a ship that the Spire Keeper Association sent out to pick him up. Gu Qingshan looked around. The wind of chaotic wind was flowing like a tidal wave. Gu Qingshan's clothes were fluttering in the wind. The speed of the ship was so fast that a lot of unusual scenes flashed by in the void of space. Gu Shan didn't even have time to see what they were. A gigantic monster that gave off a ferocious presence suddenly appeared. It looked like a snake, but also a fish that was too long. The monster opened its mouth wide, roaring as it charged towards the ship. Its mouth was big enough to swallow 10 of these ships at the same time. But the ship didn't react at all. "Is anyone there?" Gu Shan called out. No one answered. The ship sped up and charged forward, directly piercing through the monster's body. The monster howled in pain as it fell from the void of space, its body still writhing madly. More monsters appeared from the void of space and chased after the monster. That monster probably won't live for long. Seeing this, Gu Shan couldn't help but feel shocked. He couldn't help but look at the sail of the ship. Unlike the twin-masted ship from before, this ship was much larger, with several levels of cabins, as well as a large curved stern. In ancient times, this would have been a 4-masted ship suitable for long ocean voyages. Chapter 567. The ship was traveling through the endless gray fog, as if it was flying through the clouds. Although there was no sun or moon, there were occasionally billions of stars shining in the sky. The universe, the space vortex, the monsters, the void, the world layer behind them, as well as the incoming world layer. Everything came one after another. At some point, Gu Shan even felt like he was following the ship, moving forward in a strange and unfathomable darkness. The wind in the void didn't stop for even a second. Gu Shan combed his messy hair and casually strolled along the edge of the deck. This was a new experience that he had never experienced before. It was a great way to soothe his emotions. An old voice rang out. "My friend, why are you alone on the deck? Is the room not to your liking?" Gu Shan turned around to see the old man from the Spirekeeper Association. He was holding a candlestick, walking towards Gu Shan. "The room is quite nice. I just came out for some fresh air," Gu Shan replied. "I already know what happened to you," the old man said with a smile. "Which matter are you talking about? Saving someone? That was only something I did in passing. Please don't keep it in mind. That's not it, my colleague. He forgot to ask about your basic situation. That was a mistake on his part." Gu Shan thought for a bit and understood. He was talking about the first old man to receive him when he arrived at the Justice Iron Fist Club. Gu Shan then explained. "His service was very thorough. I don't think he made any mistakes." Hearing that, the old man laughed. "Ah, you don't need to defend him. He should have asked about your basic situation, but he was fooled by the presence concealing scroll on your body, thinking that you were the descendant of some big shot, so he didn't invite you." "Invite?" Gu Shan was confused. "That's right, for a newcomer like you who has just started to travel between world layers, as well as having done our association a favor, we would normally ask if you're willing to join the Spirekeeper Association. So that's why," Gu Shan said. He couldn't help but recall the situation at the time. If only he had joined the Spirekeeper Association. While he was thinking, the old man spoke up. "If I'm not mistaken, since Bali sent you to answer the Bramblebird's summon, you've obviously become a member of his club." "Yes," Gu Shan admitted. The old man spread his hands and said, "In my opinion, it was a wrong decision for you to join his club. What's the point of his club's existence other than providing free fights?" Gu Shan smiled but didn't say anything. The old man showed a sincere expression and spoke seriously. "How about you leave his club and join our Spirekeeper Association? Our union has knowledge as vast as the sea of infinite worlds, as well as research on the development of spells and professions, as well as precious historical records of the 900 million world layers, as well as top-secret information from outside the 900 million world layers." "Outside the 900 million world layers?" Gu Shan asked with interest. "Of course, such a precious secret is only known to a few people at the highest level of the association." The old man's tone changed, But you can join us and slowly increase your membership rank according to your contributions, slowly gaining more benefits. You've already done the association a favor, so you'll be able to enjoy quite a few nice benefits as soon as you join us." Gu Qingshan scowled. "To join the Spire Keeper Association, I have to leave the club first." "That's right, according to the rules, a person can only form a connection with a single superdimensional world, so you'll have to cancel your connection with the Justice Iron Fist Club's beacon in order to connect to our Spire's beacon," the old man explained. Gu Qingshan smiled and nodded. "Thank you for your kindness, but I don't intend to change my beacon." The old man was a bit surprised and couldn't help but ask further. "If you stay in the club, you'll have to shoulder a lot of debt for them, but if you join our Spire Keeper Association, you'll receive a lot of knowledge and benefits. Do you really understand the difference?" "I do, but you still want to choose the club?" "I'm sorry, why?" "They're probably hoping that I'll bring something back to repay their debt just because of that?" The old man looked at him like he was looking at an idiot. "I don't like to disappoint my friends, except when I'm playing cards," Gu Qingshan replied. "If that's the case, I can only say that it's regretful," the old man sighed and said. "I'm also regretful, but I really hope to maintain a good relationship with you," Gu Qingshan said. The old man lifted his foot and stomped on the ground, crushing a passing insect to death. The old man smiled. "Seems like Bali found himself a decent partner. His leg is almost healed. The Justice Iron Fist Club's luck really is looking up, young man. Although you've made a few stupid choices, I've found myself liking you a bit. Wait a bit, I need to get something, I'll be right back." Saying so, the old man nodded to Gu Qingshan and left. On the other side, the Justice Iron Fist Club. The brother and sister were huddled together, nervously looking at an insect on the table. The insect opened its mouth wide, speaking with a completely different tone. "I don't like to disappoint my friends, except when I'm playing cards. If that's the case, I can only say that it's regretful. I'm also regretful, but I really hope to maintain a good relationship with you." As the insect spoke to this point, it suddenly exploded and died with a "paw" sound. "I've been found out. That old man must have killed my eavesdropping insect," Meow begrudgingly said. Bali smiled. "It's their product in the first place, of course it's easy to be found out." Meow was angry for a bit, then smiled again. "Gu Qingshan is a good guy." Bali nodded and clenched his fist. "When he comes back, he'll be qualified to fight me and complete the club's initiation ceremony." Meow was a bit surprised. "Initiation?" "That's right, every person who joins the club must seal their cultivation and fight against Bali with bare fists. Bali will also seal his cultivation and accept the challenge. This is the club's custom. In the past, only official members were able to enjoy this privilege. Bali didn't know how many people he's beaten away. But this time, the one to receive the ceremony was Gu Qingshan. Gu Qingshan can cook. Gu Qingshan can repay his debt. Gu Qingshan has gone through the test, he's one of us. You want to beat him away?" Meow hurriedly shouted. "Please don't. I didn't say anything when you always beat people away before, but not this time." Bali was troubled. "The ceremony must be carried out, this is our club's tradition." Meow didn't try to persuade him and calmly asked, "Tradition? Do you want to eat raw space monsters every day, or do you want to eat hot, fragrant food? Bro, this is a master chef who delivered himself to our doorstep. Please think carefully before you decide." Bali thought for a bit, then reluctantly said, "Meow, listen to me, the ceremony is sacred and solemn, it must, He also has to pay the club's debt," Meow added. Bali's words got stuck in his throat. "There's nothing else that can make my heart beat faster than this." Bali straightened his attitude and solemnly said, "Meow, the ceremony is sacred and solemn, it must be carried out under the right circumstances. But our current circumstances are too poor, let's keep it simple." Chapter 568. Not too long after, the old man came out of the cabin and returned to the deck. He was holding something sticky in his hand. Gu Shan carefully examined it and confirmed that it was a slug. "Look, I'll give this slug to you," the old man said. Gu Shan looked at the wet slug and declined. "Thank you for your kindness, but I don't think I need something like this." The old man shook his head. "This is a good thing, much better than normal eavesdropping bugs." He cleared his throat and explained. Normal eavesdropping bugs are very easy to discover, and the angered person who's being eavesdropped would usually stomp the bug to death, and this slug, although it looks alive, it's actually just a small bionic mechanism. Only when someone stomps it to death will its eavesdropping function be activated. Gu Shan understood. If that's the case, this slug is indeed a good thing. No one would care about a bug that's been stomped to death. It can be used for intelligence gathering in many different environments. "This is my little research," the old man pridefully said. "I'll give it to you now." "Thank you." Gu Shan thanked him and put the slug away. He thought for a bit and asked, "I don't have anything to repay you with, but I wonder if I can treat you to a drink?" The old man smiled. "It would be my honor. A drink or something like that is always a good way to spend a long journey." He clapped his hands. A dining table and 2 chairs appeared on the deck of the ship. The two of them sat down at the dining table. "Do you prefer something a bit stronger or a bit lighter, sir?" Gu Shan asked. "Alcohol that's too strong will affect my thinking, so I prefer something lighter. It would be best if you could have a bit of sweetness. You and a friend of mine have similar tastes." Gu Shan then took out a large ice bucket and searched inside. He gave her a bottle of chilled osmanthus flower brew and a bottle of white wine for himself. The two of them poured and raised their glasses. "Cheers." "Thank you for the drink." "You're welcome. If you want to thank me, I should thank your slug instead." The two of them faced the boundless void fog outside the ship and started drinking. The osmanthus wine tasted light, with a hint of sweetness in the fragrance of flowers. The old man drank a few cups and gradually became happy. "I didn't expect the flowers of this evergreen tree of the osmanthus family to be able to brew such a tasty wine," he praised. A bottle of osmanthus wine was soon half finished. "If you want, I can give you the recipe. You can brew some for yourself in the future," Gu Shan said. "Of course!" the old man shouted. Gu Shan took out a blank jade slip, wrote the recipe of the osmanthus wine in it, and handed it to him. The old man happily received the jade scroll and took off his hat. "You have given me a form of knowledge. This is the most precious thing in the world. I am extremely grateful." "Not at all. It's just a little bit of fun in life." Gu Shan waved her hand. "Then, let me treat you to dinner," the old man said. The old man snapped his fingers. 2 rows of wavering utensils flew out from the cabin of the ship and automatically arranged themselves on the table. The old man placed a candlestick on the table and lit the candle on it. Immediately, a respectful male voice came from the flame of the candle. "Hello, this is Ba Kali Interstellar Restaurant. How may I help you?" The old man cleared his throat and said, "I want a top-notch set meal for 2. "Very well. A top-notch set meal for 2. You truly are a tasteful gourmet." The male voice sounded very enthusiastic. "Of course," the old man puffed out his chest and replied. After waiting for a few breaths' worth of time, each plate was filled with steaming hot food. "Enjoy your meal. We look forward to your next visit to Ba Kali Interstellar Restaurant. Goodbye." As the male voice said so, the candles went out. As Gu Shan stared at the exquisite silver plates and utensils, she suddenly had a thought. "Seems like I've been eating a lot lately." "Please help yourself," the old man said. "Thank you, I won't be polite." The two of them began to eat. Gu Shan took a bite of each dish. After tasting them all, he couldn't help but have a few questions. "What is this? Is this even edible? You call this food? Wait a minute, that thing looks pretty good. Such a bitter taste, and it's called a top-notch set meal?" Gu Shan wiped his mouth with a napkin and politely said, "I'm done, please enjoy your meal." While the old man was happily eating, he looked up at Gu Shan in surprise. He suddenly smiled in understanding. "Young man, there's no need to be embarrassed. A top-notch restaurant like this isn't something newcomers like you can eat as often as you want. You should eat a bit more. A top-notch restaurant. Gu Qingshan fell into thought. He tapped his inventory bag and took out a plate of food. "What is this?" the old man doubtfully asked. This is a local snack from my hometown. Please give it a try and comment." "Alright, I've tasted a lot of restaurants in the infinite worlds. I'm qualified to comment on a local snack." The old man gracefully took a bite. He suddenly lowered his head and said nothing. A few moments later, he took another bite. Another bite. Another bite. Another bite. Another bite. The old man held the plate of bright red dishes and ate them one by one without stopping. Gu Qingshan originally wanted to teach him how to peel them, but seeing how hungry he was, she gave up. A few moments later, "What do you think of this dish?" Gu Qingshan hesitantly asked. The old man didn't say anything but kept wiping his tears with his napkin. "Are you okay?" Gu Qingshan carefully asked. The old man abruptly looked up and roared, "It's too delicious!" Gu Qingshan was shocked. The old man waved his hand and threw all the dishes on the table into the space vortex outside the ship. Just like throwing trash. He didn't even take the plate with him. "Compared to this dish, I've been eating donkey shit for the past few years." The old man sobbed. "What's the name of this dish?" "I have to remember it," the old man asked. "Spicy crayfish. The red one is the crayfish. Then what about the green one?" "Cucumber, the white one?" "The big one is a chicken egg. The small one is a quail egg. These ingredients are soaked in the spicy broth. The taste is completely infused into it. What a perfect creation." "Wait a minute. I get it. These must be the special dishes of the royal family of your world, right?" Gu Qingshan. "That's right. When I made this dish for Meow and Bali last night, I put in a bit too many ingredients, so I didn't serve the remaining half of the spicy crayfish." Gu Qingshan originally wanted to keep it for herself and slowly eat it. Who would have thought that it would be completely wiped out here? At this point, Gu Qingshan finally understood the standard of food in the 900 million world layers. After eating and drinking, while picking his teeth, the old man spoke. "Thank you for your hospitality. You're welcome. Originally, I was the one who treated you, but instead, I got to eat your food and drink your fine liquor. You've already given me a very good gift. Take it as a token of my gratitude." The old man thought for a bit, then revealed. "This time's Call of the Bramblebirds is probably the one with the largest number of participants in history." Gu Qingshan appeared to be seriously listening. This was the other party returning the favor. As a member of the Spire Keeper Association, it was normal for them to know some secret information. The old man continued. "The bramblebirds are a mystical species, they themselves are powerful, and the one that flew into the superdimensional zone to call this time was a famous bramble bird." "Famous?" "Yes, the Light of Dawn Triest, the protector of the bramble-bird royal family, a synonym for kindness and generosity. Her reputation is well known in many worlds. That's why a lot of people are going?" Gu Qingshan asked. The old man shrugged. "As long as you're a young prodigy under 30 years old, you can answer the Light of Dawn Triest's call and work for her. This time, she announced ahead of time that everyone who goes to her will receive a greeting gift from the Mystic Zones. As long as you go, you can receive a gift?" "Correct, that's so generous," Gu Qingshan sighed. "That's right, everyone went crazy. Some who are over 30 years old even wanted to use a secret technique to turn themselves back to before they were 30. But that's very difficult and Triest is very observant. Is no one worried that the things she wants to do will be very difficult?" Gu Qingshan asked. "My God! With a few 100 million prodigies gathered here, they only need to deal with any difficulties. That's right, they can just lie down and win." "That's right, the bramble bird also provided a lot of things that can be traded with people. Furthermore, after the mission is completed, she will even generously give out the most precious treasures. Now I understand why some people want to turn back to before they were 30, Gu Qingshan muttered. "If that's the case, then there's nothing to worry about." Gu Qingshan calmed down. A miraculous trip with treasures at the end. The bramble bird also provided a lot of things to trade with people. I can use this chance to trade for a few more things. How is it, are you satisfied with this information? Truthfully, you only need to enjoy a miraculous trip and you'll be able to reap the rewards, the old man said. As for the most precious treasures, they naturally belong to those who complete the mission the most beautifully. But at the end, I'm sure the generous priest will prepare a gift for everyone. Thank you for your information, Gu Qingshan thanked him. He suddenly thought of something. Right, one last question, go ahead. I have a God's chosen friend who received a prophecy-type card of fate, but I don't know how much it's worth? Prophecy? Card of fate? The old man appeared interested and hurriedly asked, a prophecy-type card of fate? Which world did that friend of yours get it from? A scattered world, the old man laughed out loud. He couldn't have gotten such a card, he must have been tricked by someone. Why do you say that? Gu Qingshan asked. In a scattered world, obtaining such a card is nothing but a fool's dream, the old man explained further. Even among all the cards, the prophecy card is extremely rare, not to mention the prophecy card of fate. It's inextricably linked to the fate of a world, it's a royal treasure of a few gods' chosen worlds in the strife zones, as well as a world-stabilizing treasure that wouldn't easily leak out. If such a card really did leak out, the most powerful gods' chosen empire would do everything in their power to get it back. It's that rare? Extremely rare. There are a lot of cards in the deck of fate, but I dare say that there aren't even a few of them in the entire 900 million world layers. If that's the case, my friend must have been tricked. I'm going to make fun of him when I return, Gu Qingshan nodded. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.